Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
Love sports.
Sports. When
it comes to Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
TexAgs Live.
I feel like I should be listening to the theme song from the Jeffersons. You know, we're moving on up.
We will develop men, we will graduate players, and we will win championships on the field.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
He is a guy that has gotten better and better and better. He's just got that dog in him.
It's been special. The 12th man this past week was unbelievable.
And this is a real program. It's not fake. This is a real place. And if you want to be really good at football, this is a really good place to be.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
Saturday was a microcosm, I think, of A&M's issues all season long. TexAgs Live were presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio, Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. The offense went into hibernation mode for almost 6 minutes.
Yeah.
No buckets, a couple free throws in that time. They went away from what was working, which was going to Pharrell Payne, who was dominant in both games. And March is about guard play, and unfortunately guard play wasn't at its best this weekend. Wade had his moments, but overall the team just couldn't hit shots against Michigan, and Michigan in the second half hit their shots.
It was, like you mentioned, Pharrell Payne was excellent. He was 10 of 13. A&M was something like 23 of 71 overall. So if you take Pharrell Payne out, A&M shoots 29%. And Pharrell Payne was even more productive than I figured he'd probably around 15 or 16. So he's even more productive. But we knew that if A&M was going to be able to beat Michigan with their 2 7-footers, that they were going to have to make perimeter shots. And they did in the first half to a respectable degree. But in the second half, Wade Taylor hits a 3 with 8 minutes to go. A&M has a 4-point lead. They get outscored 25-9 from there. They hit one of their last 9 shots. They missed their last 5 3-pointers. When the other team has a decided height advantage, typically you're going to have to make up the difference by shooting 3-pointers. We talked about when Michigan beat A&M in the Sweet 16 7 years ago when A&M had Robert Williams and Tyler Davis, they hit 14 threes. I think A&M had 7. And like I said, they missed their last 5. And it got away from them. And Wade Taylor, as hard as he plays and as good as he's been, was 1 of 8 from 3-point range. Yeah. And that's a guy you rely on.
What were they? He was 2 of 14 in both games combined, I believe it was.
I guess.
Yeah. Did this team, and I think there's 2 answers for this, did this team meet expectations?
I would say no. I would say the expectations were to
get to the second weekend.
To get to the second weekend. I thought even if you lost in the second weekend, then you did. But, last year you got to the same point and you played the number 1 seed and pushed them into overtime and had a chance, had a great chance to win that game. But, hey, they were the number 1 seed.
Right.
This year, you at least thought you had a better team. You got the 8 seniors. You got Wade Taylor still around. You brought in Pharrell Payne.
Regular season-wise, did they meet expectations?
Yeah, regular season-wise, I thought they did.
Because I think it goes back to Buzz saying, the postseason success doesn't necessarily define this season for them.
Well, in his mind, but the people that follow the program, that invest emotionally, invest financially, do they expect more?
Yeah.
I mean, do you pay a coach a top 15 salary? I think it's top 15, maybe not, to win, to have a good regular season, but only win 1 game in the NCAA
to be one
tournament?
Of the top 15 programs.
I mean, do you got, like I said, 8 senior players and guys that have been around, and it seems hesitant to be too critical because, quite frankly, there's been some criticism that's unwarranted, that's personal attacks. But there's also criticism that's just about the team and the play and the performance, and I think that's warranted.
Yeah. I would say they may have met my expectations, and this is more a sad state of my expectations because I kind of expect, and I don't want to fuel the outrage, but I kind of expect like for me to be underwhelmed at times. Did they, from a regular season standpoint, did they reach my expectations? Actually, yeah, they may have exceeded them considering I thought with that non-conference schedule, they may take a dip. But they did so well in the non-con that I was like, okay, maybe we got something here. So I think that from a regular season standpoint, the totality of the season, I thought they should have been in the second weekend with 8 seniors, with your all-time leading scorer. They didn't reach that.
I would say, I would flip it somewhat, and I'd say Clemson, excellent regular season. Did they meet their expectations? Oh, they got beat McNeese in the first round. You say, yeah, but it's McNeese. It's a way lower seed. Michigan was a 5 seed and all these things. The bottom line is, if my memory serves, and it may not, I went to Birmingham before the season for SEC basketball media days, and it seemed like even then that buzz and some of the players were saying, hey, the second weekend was our expectation. Maybe I've got that wrong. Maybe I was asking that. But I think for your fan base, for your supporters, I think the vast majority expected the second weekend in order to call it a great season.
Well, at the end of the day, too, I think the way they go out adds to the frustration, right? Because it's like we're watching this movie in slow motion. We're like, I kind of know how the story ends. They just miss, they miss, they miss. And that's exactly what happened. And look, this is not to say that they've got themselves a cornerstone piece for the future in Pharrell Payne that I think they can build around.
If they bring some outside shooters to help him out. And we can say Pharrell Payne, look what he can be. And we saw it.
Yeah.
But if your number one guy is hitting 1 of 8 and you're not getting much help around him to go with that, then Pharrell Payne can score all day, but one guy's not going to win a game for you.
No. How are we going to remember this era of Aggie basketball?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good. Solid. But is that what you want? Is that what you're satisfied with? It's like in football. Are you satisfied with 8 wins a year? If you are, then hey, we had a successful year. You got to the tournament and you won a game against a team that was, a pretty good seed, but much lower seed than you. If that's good enough, okay, all right.
Well, and again, I don't think our expectations are through the roof for basketball. For us,
yeah, we weren't saying go to the Final Four. We were saying get to the second weekend. Yes,
but for the next logical step was that as the higher seeded team, not taking on the number one seed in Houston, as the higher seeded team, with the way the season went, with the way you did well against other conferences in non-con,
and had beaten 4 teams that you had beaten Michigan.
Yep.
4 or 5. So there's every reason to expect to win that game. You didn't think it was going to be easy.
When they were up 10, there was a moment where had they just put their foot on the throats. I know that's an easy way to say it, but there was a point where they could have buried Michigan. What they did was open the door.
Yeah. They were really, because they're undersized compared to Michigan, there were times when, they just couldn't keep Michigan from getting the second shot. We're talking about their offense. Their defense failed late too. So was that, again, they got outscored 25-9 in the second, in the last 8 minutes. And, that 25 is unacceptable as much as the 9. It goes back to just what you said to start off. It's a microcosm of the season. All year, A&M has been a streaky team. And when they're on a good streak, they get open up a 10-point lead and threaten to pull away. Then they go cold and it collapses. And like you said, microcosm, streaky team. It's great when you're on a hot streak. It's devastating when you're on a cold streak.
What was they were outscored, what was it, 41-29 at the last second half collapse after they were up 60-59?
Yeah, and Michigan was making that comeback and pulled within 1, and then Wade hit that deep three.
19. Yeah, that was 41-19.
And then Wade hit that deep 3 So you still had a 4-point lead going into that 8-minute ATO. So I'm thinking, okay, here's where it really matters. Maybe you just staved off the rally. You knew they were going to make a rally. Maybe you staved them off with Wade hitting that 3, and now you can get some momentum going back. And then they went right back and scored. And again, A&M couldn't stop them defensively and could not match them offensively.
Well, the way Luke and I did our post-game wrap, Michigan beat A&M at their own game.
Yeah.
They got to the line more. Mm-hmm. They out-rebounded them significantly, by the way. Offensive rebound, they won by 1, but total rebounds, they won by 9.
Yeah. Surprisingly to me, the second chance points were even at 17. Yeah. To me, that was amazing because it seemed like Michigan was getting more second chances. But
remember, the talk was that Michigan's similar to A&M at missing free throws. They were hitting theirs.
Well, see, sometimes in a game, the more important the game, guys rise up, and that's certainly what Michigan did. And I think A&M might have forced 8 turnovers in the first half, something like that, 7, 8.
Yeah.
Second half, I think it was 4, and you knew that was an area where A&M needed to be effective to get extra possessions, and they weren't as effective in the second half.
Here's another sad point. A&M baseball struck out 49 times over the weekend. 16, 17 times.
Well, there's consistency.
Man.
That there's some guys that got over there that got to figure out what they're doing. Maybe they just have a roster full of big swingers, and now it's just that they can't make contact. I think one of the things that we forgot when we looked at the last year and why we were so excited about this year, and you saw Lavalette, and you saw Schott, you saw Grahovec and all those. But what you didn't see is, obviously Braden Montgomery, but guys like Trey Burton, who were good contact hitters, Appel, good contact hitters, guys that didn't strike out a lot, at least doesn't seem like they did. And I guess you just don't. It's one thing if you have the guy who's takes those big swings and like a Lavalette strikes out. A lot of power hitters strike out a lot, but when they hit it, but when you don't have guys on base in front of them because everybody's striking out, or you get guys on base and you're not even moving them around because you're striking out too much.
I think 16 times in a weekend, one game of 16 is a lot. I don't know if there's a record in SEC play of a team striking out, but I mean, it feels like that's got to be very up there for A&M.
Yeah, at least baseball. We were saying maybe they need to, unfortunately, start referring to them as Texas A&M. That's a lot of strikebouts, man. That's a ridiculous number.
I didn't think you were going to do that on the air.
Yeah, well,
Cut me off air.
Hey, go ahead and hate me, but I'm just calling it like it is. I see it.
The People's Champ, Olin Buchanan here on TexAgs Live. All right, if you want to be part of the conversation, you can do it multiple ways. You can call us up. You can text us. If you call it, we'll pick it up on the Buppy's Catering Hotline, 979-693-1150. OB, we haven't actually been in the Holistic Planning Cool Zone in a minute. It's been a week.
Yeah, but we're back.
We're back.
We're back in the cool zone.
Do you even remember what they do there? I don't think you do.
Heck yeah.
No, you don't.
How can I forget what the holistic planning do?
Without looking.
They're going to help you with your investments. The investments. Everybody needs to make money by investing. They're going to help you with your taxes. That keeps getting closer to April 15th, so you need some help with your taxes. Holistic planning. And by the way, speaking of planning, you got to plan for your estate for when you retire, like I hope to do in the not too distant future. But you got to have enough money to retire. They're going to help you with that. And one of the ways they're going to help you with that is by investing in what?
Pro sports?
Pro sports.
You read that all off the teleprompter. That was really good.
Like we have a teleprompter. That's the only thing we don't have at TexAgs.
Hey, that's right. All right. Holistic planning. Again, you can go to investinprosports.com. All right, let's go around the room. Say hi to the people. Behind the glasses, Nick Savage. Nick's been a few days since I've seen you, buddy. How are you?
I'm good. I'm happy to have y'all back in studio.
Actually, I think you enjoyed us not being here.
Well, I actually do, yeah. When y'all are on the road, it's a whole lot easier to run a show because I don't have to worry about a studio and everything. But, I mean, it's lonely. I'm stuck with, well, I would say Kay, but I was stuck with Richard and, I was stuck with Brawny coming in before he left. So it's good to have all my buddies back and Matthew Dawson. Yeah, but I wasn't stuck with Matthew. I was glad to have Matthew around.
Tell us something that's on your mind, Nick.
Well, I'm sure Kaylee will get into it a little bit more in detail, but the one positive from the weekend is Aggie softball, of course. I feel like that's the one consistent thing we keep bringing up. Trisha Ford picks up another SEC series win, and love to see it. Mac Barbara got the power stroke back. I think homered for the first time since when, Kay? Do you remember? Opening weekend. Wow. So,
that long?
Yeah, it was that long. So it's good to see her put one over the fence.
All right, let's go to the Angry Elephant using Social Center. Kaylee Dryer's there. Kaylee, good morning.
Good morning. How are y'all?
Good. I don't know if you've noticed the theme on the show. Everybody's just kind of talking like we're in a library at a Starbucks. We don't want to be too loud. We just, hey, guys, how are you? Aggie's baseball. They lost. Aggie basketball. Can you give us some exciting news?
Yeah, so as Nick said, number 6, Texas A&M softball claimed their 3rd consecutive series win over Alabama. Amari Harper reached base in 7 of 10 plate appearances, went 4 for 7, and recorded her 100th career hit and 51st career RBI, while Mac Barbara led the series with 5 RBIs, went 5 for 10 with a home run and 2 runs scored.
That is your, top players stepping up and really, really performing.
Whenever we're down in the dumps and everyone's like, oh, this team has a chance to go very far, like national championship kind of level team that we have here. So we should be celebrating what they're doing there with Trisha Ford.
Absolutely, we should celebrate it. But at the same time, fact of the matter is, there's a lot of disappointment too.
Yeah, I get it. What else do you have for us?
So on the pitching
She's
side,
Trisha Ford's like throwing us a life raft.
Yeah, she is.
Or a life flow, whatever you call those things.
on the pitching side of softball, Emily Kennedy earned her 60th strikeout of the season, moving to 9-3 on the year, and Sydney Lessentine recorded her first career save and her 50th strikeout of the season. Sunday's win marked the 11th comeback victory of the season, which is 6th most in the nation. The Aggies host Sam Houston on Tuesday and North Texas on Wednesday to continue their season.
Excellent. Thank you, Kaylee. Appreciate you. OB, we did do something on Saturday night that made us feel better.
We did. We
Right?
ate well.
We ate well. We went to one of these Brazilian places you get a lot of meat.
Yeah.
And I was thinking to myself, this is good, but it ain't like the meat I get in College Station.
It ain't like 1775. You know, that might have been the bill there.
Yeah.
You know, but
Don't tell management.
and that's with that's with no decimal point. But 1775. First of all, you don't have to pay that much, and then you get even better. Really, seriously, you even get better.
Better meat.
Better meat because you get that succulent brisket and that jalapeno cheese sausage and those amazing pork ribs, the turkey that Liucci likes.
Yeah.
Even pulled pork if you like that, to go with it, some queso mac and cheese or several other sides, but that's just my favorite.
And the thing is, they make you wait. You got to go on Thursday through Saturday. That's where you go. They're open at 11 a.m. until they're sold out. Online ordering turns off at 10 a.m.
Worth the wait.
Yep, 8203 Raymond Salsa Parkway in College Station, 979-492-6241, or check them out at 1775txbbq.com.
What's up, TexAgs? This commercial break is brought to you by my good friends over at Aggieland Chevrolet, the official automotive sponsor of TexAgs.com and me, Billy Liucci. Greg Gunn is the proud owner of Aggieland Chevrolet and invites you to visit the dealership to experience true Aggie hospitality. From their friendly staff to the experienced service team, Aggieland Chevrolet is TexAgs approved. Check out the dealership off of Highway 6 in Bryan or go to AggielandChevrolet.com and tell them Billy Liucci sent you by.
Get ready for the ultimate culinary showdown, the Pantry to Plate Chef Challenge, benefiting the Brazos Valley Food Bank, Thursday, April 10th, 6 to 8 o'clock at the Texas A&M Hotel and Conference Center. You can watch local chefs Blake Zeitman of Zeitman's Deli, Corey Thomas of Remnants of Nollins, and Tanner Purdom of the Wild Garlic turn everyday pantry staples into gourmet masterpieces. Live under pressure, celebrity judges, KBTX's Carla Castillo, Alex Egan is your host. High-energy event packed with fun and flavor. You get gourmet bites, beer, and wine, and a chance to shake things up. Bid to sabotage a chef, upgrade their ingredients, or vote for your favorite to win People's Choice. Can't make it on the night of? Donate online and support your favorite chef from anywhere. Join us for a fight against a hunger-free Brazos Valley. Get your tickets now at bvfb.org/pantry-plate-challenge-2025.
That's a lot of dashes.
Man. Dash, or
that
dot,
sounds like
dot.
a track meet. There's so many dashes.
Hey, it's TexAgs Live.
Yeah, it is.
You knew that, right?
Of course I did.
We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers in the Rollo Insurance Studio. The Go Hour presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. You know, we're going to do something else this segment, but we keep getting text messages. So let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Got Chase in College Station, Chase in Houston. We got a bunch of texts in here. So let's go to Kaylee Dreyer there and pay some of these off.
So Keith from San Antonio said, what do you think Trev will do if the baseball team misses the NCAAs and finishes close to last place in the SEC standings?
What do you think Trev will do if the baseball team misses the NCAAs and finishes close to last place in the SEC standings? I don't know Trev well enough yet. I don't know.
I think they're suggesting will there be a coaching change, and I would think not.
I would think not as well, but
well, first of all, okay, I'd have to know Early's contract.
Yeah.
But I'm sure he doesn't have a one-year deal. And I think Trev's made it pretty clear that he doesn't want to be paying coaches not to coach.
Yeah.
That, because of the finances are different now in college sports, right? With paying players and such. So if you've got to come up with an extra $22 million and growing to pay players while also operating the incredible expenses of an athletic budget. I mean, think about how much, you got two boys, right?
Mm-hmm.
How much do you have to spend to feed those guys?
A lot.
And they're on, about 160 pounds each?
Yeah, 150.
So, so what do you, if you got like 300 guys and some of them, and they're all weighing 190 plus, seems like. I mean, can you imagine just the bill to feed them?
Right.
And that's not go into clothe them and travel and all those things. So, because of the increased expenses and things like that, I think he's going to give Michael Earley at least another year to see if they can't.
That would be my thoughts right now. Let's see how the season plays out. If they finish hot, how the conversations change, and I know that's a big if considering what we just saw. And if they continue to lose series, like, how long does that offer last? I think that all that plays part.
The only way I would think that they would make, look, I may be completely barking up the wrong tree here, but now maybe if some booster said, look, I will pay whatever it takes to make a change, then it could happen.
Well, look, let's see what this team looks like when they're healthy, if they get healthy, right? And I want to see more from Coach Earley.
I do. I don't know how much. I mean, but how much of the culpability for the lack of hitting and the strikeouts are on Coach Earley? I mean, at some point, a player has to go out there and perform.
Yep. Let's go back to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Kaylee?
We have another text that says, David, March has not been kind to Aggie men's sports. Basketball ended month 3-3 and first weekend exit from tournament. And baseball 6-9 being swept twice in the SEC.
No, March sucks.
Yeah.
Honestly, November sucked. December sucked.
What you're saying is in all these sports that when you get to the point where, it
matters.
When it matters most, November for football, you're seeing teams fade. The only one up until now, because softball doesn't count yet.
Right.
But the only one that I feel like, and I may be wrong on this, somebody please, if I'm wrong, let me know. The only sport that I can think of this year that surged at the most important time of the season is volleyball.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah,
is
they
that
surged.
accurate?
Yeah, they surged.
Because
I feel like they were great all season long.
yeah, football collapsed.
Mm-hmm.
Basketball, you got into March. You lost to Texas in the SEC. Hey, you beat Texas in the SEC tournament. You get that 3-pointer that would have given them a 7-point lead, and they beat Texas. They probably aren't playing Michigan in the second round. You know, and
That's
so
true.
maybe you would have had a better chance if you beat Texas, and you know, maybe you get a 3 seed instead of a 4 seed. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, the guy's right.
Let's read Chase in Houston's text message. Kaylee?
Okay, Chase in Houston says, here's a question. Whose era would you take right now, Buzz or Mark's 4 years?
Mark Turgeon's 4 years.
I wasn't here for Mark Turgeon. And so what I'm saying is I know that they got screwed royally against UCLA.
Yep.
And he left after that, right?
He was here for 4 seasons.
Okay. Did he have another year after that UCLA?
That might have been the year he left. Actually.
Okay. So I don't know what they had coming back. I do know that Buzz is going to have to almost completely rebuild the team. Right? Now, I know he also has the transfer portal, which Turgeon didn't have.
And he's got a really darn good center.
Yeah, he has a good center. But again, you got to get some guys that can
here's
shoot the ball.
Here's what Turgeon did. Round of 32, year 1. And he inherited a very good Billy Gillespie leftover team, right? Round of 32, round of 32, round of 32, round of 64. So in his 4 years here, they made the tournament every year.
But the question is
25-11, 24-10, 24-10, 24-9.
But isn't the question, where do we see them going from here as opposed, which one had the better trajectory after? Maybe I misunderstood the question.
No, which era was better, basically? Which you prefer? The Turgeon years?
Okay,
or
if that's what...
I'd say the Buzz years. Because maybe I shouldn't, but I give the COVID year a pass.
Okay, I agree.
Right?
I agree.
Especially the way he builds teams, right?
I get the first 2 years. The first year they actually were playing well late.
Right.
The second year, COVID doesn't even matter. Third year, they got hosed and went to the NIT
final.
But don't lose some of the games you lost, and then you wouldn't have had to worry about it. And then round of 64 out, round of 32 out, round of 32 out.
Yep.
Very similar.
Very similar.
Well, let me ask you this, and I don't know because I wasn't here. Were people upset that Mark Turgeon left? Like,
I don't remember it that way. I feel, and I could be wrong here, I wasn't covering the Aggies at the time. As a fan, I remember thinking he was not going to live up to Billy Gillespie. And it was always hard, in my mind, he was the guy after Billy, right?
Were we disappointed that he didn't get further?
Yes.
Turgeon's team.
Yeah.
Then it's the same. I would say it's pretty much the same then.
Yeah. I think that'd be a good question for Billy later too. Look, Buzz is still here. Buzz has, I'm always going to give him credit for the culture. And I'm sorry, that matters to me.
They've got good guys.
They got great guys that I love talking to. And I love, it's going to be hard to say because I don't love the brand of offense that they play, but I love the way they go to work as a team, right? I love players like Anderson Garcia that I think I'm going to be talking about 20 years from now, right? Like that's kind of player. I love Henry Coleman. I think that guy can run for office. Like there's personalities and the way this team goes to work that I just think I can get down with.
You can't criticize anybody for their personalities. They're good guys.
Yep.
I mean, they were really good guys.
I wish offensively they had a different approach, but I'm not in those practices. I don't look. I mean, C.J. Wilcher is the only guy who really shoots the ball consistently well from 3.
Well, then he should have shot more.
Well, all right, we'll hit a break here. We'll come back with some more. Right now, we're talking Bird Dog. They're an Aggie owned and operated company creating access to hunting opportunities. I want you to think of them as a Airbnb for hunters and hunting experiences. They can set up all the logistics for you. You will have a blast. I did it back in November, had a wonderful time, private chef, had an awesome concert experience. The whole thing was fantastic. I highly, highly recommend reaching out to Bird Dog for your hunting experiences. If you're a landowner, they want to make sure that you know that you can make money on your land for a couple reasons. Yes, you can make money on your land by having hunters there, but you don't even have to have hunts, because what they do is they find tax benefits for you, and they're going to optimize those benefits and make you as much money as possible. Some of their clients are making an extra $100 to $500 per acre of land. They can be your personal consultant and help you maximize the income on your land. If you're a ranch broker, you need to talk to them, as they can help your buyer or your seller understand the additional ways to make money. You don't even have to sell hunts with the program. The website is birddogit.com. Birddogit.com. Check it out. Man, we're back on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. There's a dude on our chat that was happy that we lost. He's removed. Anyway, Luke Evangelist hanging out with us here on the Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. Hey, buddy.
Hey.
Still sad?
No. If anything, I'm just tired. I didn't get back until like 3.
Oh, I forgot you had the 11 o'clock flight. Yeah.
And then it was like I guess there was a hailstorm in town, and I caught like the...
Where, in Denver?
No, in
here, College Station.
There was a hailstorm?
Yeah, last
night. I caught like the entire wave of the storm as I was driving, so it was like just an hour of driving through rain.
Not the hailstorm from a couple of weeks ago.
No,
there was one last night.
Yeah, there was a big storm.
Really?
Yeah.
I had zero clue.
Yeah.
The last time it woke me up, I didn't know. Huh.
Yeah, so I was driving like 40 miles an hour with the hazards on, just the windshield wiper going crazy.
Well, it was hailing bricks in the second half against. Sorry, it was against Michigan. OB went and did the math. What did they shoot without Pharrell Payne?
29% without.
Yeah.
10 of 15, I think he was.
He was 10 of 13.
10 of 13.
And A&M as a team was something like. Anyway, there's 29%. Well, I got it right here. So he was 10 of 13. As a team, A&M was 27 of 71. So without Pharrell, you take out they made 17 of 58. That'd come out to about 29%. He's going to check me.
Yeah, 29.
Well, did you actually do that?
Why did you feel like you had to double check it?
No, I just, whatever.
Couple days removed.
Yeah.
I guess my question isn't what went wrong. We all know what went wrong. What went wrong this season? If something went wrong. Because, you could look at this season and it was like, hey, it was a really nice year. Yeah, we didn't get as far as we wanted, but it was a nice year of basketball. I enjoyed this season a lot. You're never going to reach, unless you win a national championship, you're never going to be happy as far, you always want them to go further.
Yeah.
But I expected more.
Yep.
And I still had a good time.
Yeah. It's weird to grasp because people are always going to ask the question, was it a successful season? Did it live up to expectations? And I still think it was a good season. They just did not live up to expectations. If you're preseason top 15, you should reach the Sweet 16. If you're a 4 seed, you should reach the Sweet 16. And for all the great moments they had, they still just can't win in March. But that doesn't take away from the Auburn win, from how monumental it was to beat Purdue, beating Texas Tech. Those are major wins that you're going to see hopefully have an impact with the transfer portal open, that A&M can say, look, we are building something special as one of the best programs in Texas. They just have to get over that hump. And I think the game plan has to be to offensively, you got to find people who can make threes.
Yeah.
And you got to replace one of the most consistent runs of backcourt production that A&M's had since AC Law, where it was 4 straight years of Wade Taylor, Manny Obaski was in the mix, and Hayden Hefner was there for 5 years. It's going to be a different year next year with fans having to learn new faces and new names, and you're not going to have that luxury of knowing 95% of the roster when the season starts.
Texas State's still playing.
Yeah.
Is Auburn still playing?
Yeah. I know, and it stings even more because A&M beat all these teams. They beat 5 teams in the Sweet 16, and it's frustrating.
Yeah, and you talked about the guys that are going to be gone. You took one player and you put his jersey, or not his jersey, but his jersey, up in the rafters while he was still playing.
Yeah, and
so I think it's fine to say, you expected more, especially when you have that guy plus 7 other guys in their last year of eligibility. And then you say, well, where's this program going? Yeah. And look, was an excellent regular season? Yes. But I still say, whether it's fair or not, that in basketball, college basketball, you're ultimately judged by how you do in March.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
And you can say, well, that's the way it shouldn't be. Well, maybe it isn't, but that's the fact. And once again, the furthest you got was 1 game. Should we celebrate that? Should we celebrate that season? Hey, man, they got into the tournament and won a game. Is that what we want?
Not as a 4 seed.
There is a lot on the boards like that we as analysts and fans accept mediocrity. And I don't think anybody's accepting mediocrity. Just because we're not New York fans and demanding that people get fired and like trade them and like, that's one way of doing things. Yeah. I like to think that Aggies typically are held to a higher standard. Sometimes not. Recently, I've seen on social media. Yeah. But when we look at this, compare the highs and lows of this year. Let's go through the highs. What are the highs? The highs are beating Auburn,
beating Purdue and Indianapolis.
The non-conference, I think they did really well.
The entire non-conference.
Right?
Coming back from huge deficits to beat Ole Miss, Oklahoma, Missouri.
Okay, those are the highs. The lows all have a similar feel. Your very first game of the season ended the way the last game of your season ended.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
On huge droughts.
You had a 10-point lead.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you went into a big drought.
Right.
And those droughts are not uncommon throughout Buzz's tenure here.
And then your second loss of the season, Oregon. What happened in that one?
You blew a 10-point
lead.
Okay. So those are, let me tell you some other black eyes. I'm sorry, losing to Texas twice. Black eye. The way you lost the first one.
Yeah.
And the second one.
Yeah.
I mean, even though the second one, if you're a college, you're about to say something.
No, I'm not.
Okay. We're straight. The second one was a fabulous basketball game if you like college basketball. If you like Texas A&M, that game sucked.
Yeah, and you look at it, it's like beating your rival, I don't want to say is almost like 1A, 1B with March success, but ultimately that's what people remember is those rivalry games stick with you. And beating Texas by 20 at Reed is an afterthought because the last two times you played them, you lost. And I think the overall sentiment is if you couldn't have success with 8 seniors and one of the best players with his jersey in the rafters, when will it ever come for this program? And it's unfortunate the way this season ended, but at the end of the day, overall, the last 4 years have been in a better place where the previous 4 years have been. So
100%. You're in a better place.
It's just concerning that this was supposed to be the year, and now it's just got to build towards next year.
But also, it's supposed to, and OB, you can speak to this, it's supposed to be the year that's supposed to be better, but then you look at the things that basketball is not even related to. They're cousins with football, with baseball. Like, it just makes it feel more sour.
Yeah.
Buzz should have been hired. I have no issue. I understand the firing of Billy Kennedy. There was no consistency there. And Buzz has been consistent. But he replaced a guy that got you to the Elite Eight. To the Sweet 16 twice. No other coach in program history has gotten teams to the Sweet 16 twice. And that guy got fired.
Mm-hmm.
So don't get me wrong, I'm not suggesting Buzz Williams should be fired. I'm not suggesting that for a minute. But what I'm saying is, do we have high standards or not?
Yeah. Buzz was brought here to get this program to the second weekend. He did that 4 times in 11 years at Marquette and Virginia Tech, and it's year 6. And sure, 3 years ago they were one of the hottest teams and got screwed. 2 years ago they got screwed again on their seed. In the last 2 years you've been 1 game away, but still it's not the almost that counts. It's getting to the second weekend that counts.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and to me, getting to the second weekend isn't like this amazing.
No,
it's a great accomplishment.
Like the bar is like essentially on the floor for this program. It would have been the 6th time in program history it's been done, and that would have been the marker of a successful season for A&M basketball.
Do you guys think because we've seen this story before, it makes this loss, this isolated loss, because we saw the Penn State game, right? Because we saw the way they lost in the NIT final to Xavier, right? Because we've seen, that was just a nail biter. That's different. But because we've seen this story before, because we are almost watching this car accident happen throughout the season of like, well, when they go on this drought, it makes it that even more difficult. Because there's one thing, the loss to Texas in overtime, even though I hated that loss, they were firing. That was a shootout. This one was like, you got up early, and then they countered, and there was no response.
Yeah, it's seeing the same thing over and over again, and there's just been no change, or you're seeing the same habits come back, and that's ultimately what's concerning. Is this team has a winning formula, or should I say had a winning formula of rebounding, especially offensive rebounding, playing defense and getting to the free throw line more than their opponent. And the way they started the season was going away from that in a massive drought against UCF. And then for their season to end like that is just even more frustrating because you thought that they had corrected it. Even when they had lost 5 of their last 8 games, they showed that they had corrected that.
Well, let's do this. Let's hit a break. I want to talk to you about what they look like, where they go from here.
Yeah.
Because with 8 guys moving on, it's going to be a completely different roster. Let's talk about what it, maybe not what it could look like with actual names, but what they'll do.
Yeah.
Rollo Insurance, a goal without a plan is just a wish. When the going gets tough, and sooner or later it will get tough, who are you going to call to get to put things back together? You're going to call an automated phone tree? You're going to call somebody's cell phone, your personal agent that can take care of you immediately. That's what they do at Rollo Insurance. My guy has been taking care of me. I mean, I have got Morgan, and I know several others here at TexAgs have Morgan. You call them up, take care of things immediately. That's what they do there at Rollo Insurance. Not all options are created equal. And at the Rollo Insurance Group, there are going to be some good days, and they want to make sure that they keep you whole on those bad days. Go to rolloinsurance.com/TexAgs to learn more today. You can call them up, 888-44-ROLLO, 60 offices in the great state of Texas, but their headquarters is on Highway 6 right here in College Station. 888-44-ROLLO, rolloinsurance.com/TexAgs. Let's talk a little Snaps clothing. David Nuño here, and I love wearing Snaps clothing everywhere. I've got the flannel on right now. You've seen me in the Tailgater collection with the A&M gear. It is fantastic. If you see me around town with my sons, Christian and Cruz, they've got a bunch of Snaps gear. When they have big games for Consol, they wear nice clothes, so they wear their Snap stuff. And I'm telling you, with baseball season here, let's all kind of go looking stylish and fit to the games there at Olson wearing the Snaps clothing. As a reminder, they are the only official licensed Texas A&M Pearl Snaps maker out there. Their Tailgater collection is built for game day with breathable, moisture-wicking fabrics to keep you comfortable while you rep your Aggies in style. Now, whether you're watching the game from home or maybe you're in attendance, you're tailgating, whatever it may be, you got to make sure you head to snapsclothing.com to see everything they have to offer. It is fashionable, it is awesome, and you're going to love it. And we're back on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Have you sent out the tweet? The transfer portal does begin today, right?
Yes, it is officially open.
So what can they look like next year?
They're gonna have to, one, prioritize keeping the pieces that they have on their roster, and building around Pharrell Payne and Solomon Washington is something that can be done. They're gonna have to refine 3 new starting guards in the portal, and preferably guys that can shoot the 3. They've got nice young pieces in Chris McDermott. We all saw him. He was the only freshman that played this year, and he played sparingly throughout the year, but I was impressed when I saw him in his first game against Houston. He was a late addition to that class and really flew under the radar. They've got Andre Mills, who was electric in high school. Very much reminds me of Boots, a lefty who will drive hard and finish through contact. He'll probably get a look at potentially getting playing time. He redshirted this year, and I am a huge fan of Jasir Rencher,
the California kid.
Yeah, player of the year in his conference, made 8 threes in a game that he didn't even play in the fourth quarter. So if there was one freshman that I had to pick that was going to get a look off the bench at the guard position, which is something that they're essentially empty at right now, it's probably Jasir Rencher.
And before we go, we got 30 seconds here. I think, OB, you can attest to this. I think Buzz has done a really good job getting transfer portal pieces
He's been
in the last
excellent.
couple of years.
He's been excellent in the transfer portal. You know, you look at Pharrell Payne, you go back to Dexter Dennis, and before
Boots Radford,
Henry Coleman, Anderson Garcia. So he's been exceptional in the transfer portal. He may need to outdo himself.
Yeah. Gentlemen, thank you. OB, good job. Luke, great job this weekend, man. All right, we'll hit a break. We'll come back with Michael Earley and Ryan Brauninger, followed by Tom Hart, followed by Billy Liucci. It's TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're back here on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Hour number 2 of the show. Ryan Brauninger in studio to chit-chat a little baseball. Right now is our weekly conversation with Michael Earley, brought to you by Duck Camp. Duck Camp, we know the best moments happen out there on the boat, casting a line, or hauling in the catch of the day. Be sure to check out Duck Camp's new spring hats, like the fan favorite crawfish hat and the redfish hat at duckcamp.com. With that, we go to the Bumpy's Catering Hotline and are joined by Michael Earley. Coach, good morning, sir.
Good morning, guys.
I wanted to start things off with obviously a rough weekend at the plate, 49 strikeouts. Was there a different approach? Was it just immaculate pitching? Just kind of give me your thoughts on what happened at the plate.
I don't necessarily think it was either. I think it was just a lack of performing. And, they had some good arms. I think strikeouts piled up just absolutely not an acceptable way. Not making adjustments. Yeah, it was, you see a lot of multiple guys striking out multiple times, which is just something you can't have.
Coach, has that been the most frustrating part of the offense for you, or is it something else, or has it just been the punch outs?
No, overall lack of production, I think, is probably the biggest frustration. I mean, that many strikeouts will never be, you strike out that many times, I hope you hit 6 or 7 home runs in the game. You know what I mean? And so you can't punch out without power production. That doesn't really fit. You know what I mean? So you think about the innings and the amount of times they didn't have to make plays. It's just not conducive to winning. And you can sit here and say like, oh, you're in every game, yeah, but who knows what happens if you cut those in half. Maybe you got to, look what they did. Look what they did, off Luke Jackson and just kind of slapping balls the other way. So, no, I mean, we'll, you find one thing to fix and then you have another you got to fix, and we'll continue to do that. And I still have full confidence in this offense and this team. So, I mean, it's back to work with the off day yesterday. We'll be able to practice today. So, looking forward to working on some stuff. But it's not the in a strikeout, every strikeout's different, right? But it's not always the third strike that strikes you out. And most of the time, it's not. It's not hitting the fastball you get in the zone, or taking a pitch on strike 3 that you think is close. Like it's just a lack of not buy-in, but just competing and having pride. And we're gonna get it fixed.
Well, and I've been kind of hammering the point that like, strikeouts don't matter if you walk and you slug. And to your point, y'all didn't walk or slug at the rate you needed to overcome that many strikeouts. So you talk about going back to work today. What can you do in the cage as a head coach with Caleb Longley? What can you do to cut down on those punch outs?
Yeah, I mean, it's just similar to what we've done with defense. It's just going to get real competitive. 2-strike. We're going to work on, it's hard for a drill-wise to say you got 2 strikes, but it's really going to be about us being on them and expose them to some different challenging things. And, trying to, this isn't about hitting. It's not about hitting. It's about having a mindset and competing and competing the right way. Cause you can watch this play. There's no lack of care. There's no lack of that, but it's like taking it to another level and, just taking some pride in it, man, and getting some guys on base and sometimes you got to get a little nasty with 2 strikes and do something different. And you just cannot continue to do the same thing over and over again. So yeah, we're gonna challenge them quite a bit for the ones that need it.
Coach, again, starting pitching has been fantastic. How are they doing? How are they handling things? And I guess just give me your thoughts overall on the entire pitching staff.
Yeah, they've done a good job. I mean, we're a team. I mean, those guys, it's not pitchers and hitters, so they want to win as bad as anyone, and they continue to give us chances to win. And they should be able to make little mistakes here and there and give up a homer and us be able to pick them up, and we're not doing that on the offensive side. But from pitching stand, I like where we're at. I mean, Luke Jackson, he walked a guy, but a couple flare hits. I thought he did well. Cade McCoy, it's nice to see him again. Cade Wilson gave up the homer. Then the strikes. Our guys are throwing strikes. Strikes have not been an issue, and all 3 starting pitchers, gave us a chance to win. Weston Moss was awesome again. So yeah, I mean, our pitching staff is what's keeping us in these baseball games.
Well, we'll stay on the pitching side. With kind of the emergence of Caden McCoy and his ability to go into the league on the road and get guys out, do he and maybe even Gavin Lyons figure to start getting more calls on the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, Caden for sure, and then Lyons, he's right there as well. Want to keep getting in the innings on Tuesdays, and yeah, Caden he's proved himself, and especially this weekend coming in pitching the way he pitched, and yeah, he's definitely earned that more innings as long as the situation calls for it. But yeah, he's done an awesome job, and it's about time that we start giving him the ball more.
Well, it's kind of been a revolving door in left field out of necessity, and then nobody stepping up and claiming that spot for day in, day out purposes. You've given a lot of guys chances out there, but with the defense playing better, much better now with Ben Royo at second, does the defense now factor into lineup decisions on who's on that scorecard to start in that starting nine?
Yeah, it has to. I mean, just with how we're playing, and Royo's not particularly swinging the bat well. He's playing a really good second base, so more than good, like awesome second base. So we got to make it better at the plate, and we will. So yeah, defense is definitely a factor. As left field, it's like who wants to take the spot, and you're exactly right. Nobody is. So it's going to be a revolving door and it's going to be a revolving door mid-game, even more in-game than you're accustomed to seeing. Like I'm talking, you might get one at-bat, and you can argue about being comfortable, this or that. It ain't about being comfortable anymore. It's about production. So you better learn to compete and get it done and have a quality at-bat, or we're gonna keep passing the baton.
Well, I feel like you're passing the baton to me now to ask this question, seeing how you answered that one. Any health update on Caden Sorrell, Josh Stewart, Isaac Morton, all those guys?
Yeah. So Sorrell, I'll meet with my training staff here today, but we'll see. I think it is very likely you see him in some capacity this weekend. What that capacity is going to depend on him. Like I cannot run that guy out there for 27 innings. So you could see pinch hit, you could see DH, you may see a game in the outfield. We'll see. There might be a situation where talking about Shot may have to go to left, and which is tough on him. I mean, he's got a torn meniscus, and that's the reason he hasn't been out there. So, but it's a situation we're in. You might have to try some things and push the buttons and try to get something out. But you'll see Sorrell in some capacity. What that capacity is, the days leading up to it will let us know. But he ran on Sunday and felt really, really good. So that was really good to see. And then Josh Stewart, I don't think it's likely you see him this weekend. Still, I think this week will be a major week for him, kind of seeing where we're at. And then Isaac Morton, hurt his oblique, but he was off the roster this weekend. He'll be reevaluated this week, and we'll see where he's at. But those two guys, not sure, but Sorrell, you'll definitely see him in some capacity this weekend, I would think, barring some major change or setback. Just what that capacity is, again, I won't know until the weekend.
Coach Earley, when things aren't working, how hard is it to balance making a change because you're just trying something and just trying to stay consistent with another approach that long-term will work?
Yeah, I got a pretty good idea about approach and what works and things like that. But it's what you do is you challenge them more within those confinements because they're not doing it. So you just make it harder, and that's not for everyone. Jason Violet's in a really good spot. I don't need to be shooting him 95-mile-an-hour sliders today, like some of the other guys are going to get. So it's really about balancing and giving it to the right guys. And it's really about that, that back half of our order. I thought our top, Keel had a rough game or two, but that was bound to happen. He's been playing great. He was still competitive, even in the last inning, sticks his bat out there, gets a hit. So I'm not upset with him at all. It's just he's a freshman and he's been playing incredible. But just that bottom half of the order it's just stagnant. It's stagnant and, giving us not much at all. So those guys got to get better. We will make them better. Bear Harrison played a lot better. I think when he hit the home run, that might be the first run the bottom of the order has produced, and it felt like weeks. And then he had a big double the other day too. But he's in the sixth spot. So it's just grind time. That's what it is. Like there's no flight on this ball club, man. It's all fight, and these guys care. And they were devastated after every game, and they came back, and they'll be ready to practice today. We'll be ready to go. My confidence in this team has not changed, or the ability for it to, turn things around. And it starts today in practice, and then tomorrow, and then we're not going to look past tomorrow. We're going to take care of business there and keep rolling, man. That's all we can do. And it's not. I mean, I'm not happy. Don't get me wrong. I'm not. It's but it is what it is. It's where we're at, and we're going to keep pushing and keep going. And I believe in these guys and believe in what we're going to do. So. Yeah, man, just ready to get going today at practice.
Whenever you go through these, talk about these competitive sessions of practice that are upcoming in the BP and stuff. How much of that can you sit there and say, this is a pitch tracking issue, this is a pitch recognition issue? Can you change things mechanically to get them to kind of stay on balls better with two strikes?
Yeah, I mean, it's not just as a baseball, it's not just competing this that. Like some guy, we got to make some adjustments for some guys mechanically to put yourself in a better spot to get to that. The issue is before we get to two strikes is missing fastballs in the zone to hit that you could hit earlier in the count, which then gets you to two strikes. And then when you get to two strikes, you're still taking a swing like you're swinging at a fastball where. It's the old saying. It's like the first two strikes are for you, the last one's for the team. Like, you've heard that before. Like, two strikes, give up the inner third of the plate, look for something middle away, try to hammer the gap, and we're not doing it. And, it's just not acceptable. And it's my fault for letting it get to this point, and we'll get it fixed. So, yeah, there's mechanical issues. There is definitely that. Some guys can make some adjustments. Some guys it is what it is for where they're at mechanically. We're not going to make some wholesale change to some of them. So, but you don't have to have a great swing. You don't have to be strong. You don't have to be anything to be a good hitter. Like you got to be confident, and you got to be competitive and be willing to do anything to get on base, not to get a hit, to get on base. So if you get two strikes and guy throws a breaking ball in or a fastball in, like don't jump out of the way. Like, let it hit you. Go to first base. I mean, White Hensler does a phenomenal job at that. So it's just about being competitive and having the right mindset and not giving a pitch away, like, period. So that's what it is.
Coach Earley, we appreciate your time, sir. Thanks very much.
All right, guys. Thank you.
See ya. Michael Earley on the Buc-ee's Catering Hotline. We'll hit a break here, and we'll come back with more baseball talk with Bronny. And get to your text messages as well. Right now, a moment for Caldwell Country Chevrolet, Highway 21 in Caldwell, online, CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. If you're looking for a truck, place to go. SUV, place to go. Mid-sized vehicle, place to go. Just looking for a different feel for your car, right? You want to get a trade-in. You want to see what they have. Go to Caldwell Country Chevrolet. They've got medium-duty trucks for those heavier jobs. They've got so many different surface body trucks, flatbed trucks, you name it. Locally owned and operated by Aggie alumni. Just a great place to go when you're looking for a vehicle. You'll get a good price. You'll get great trade-in value. And, of course, exceptional customer service. It starts the moment you walk in the door. It continues throughout your purchase of that Caldwell Country vehicle, which means you get complimentary pickup and delivery for service. And they've got free oil changes for life on the life of the purchase of your vehicle. It's about a 15-minute drive. We're talking the edge of Bryan to the beginnings of Caldwell. Short conversation away, but you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business with the great people at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell. Online, CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. As a reminder, the final segment of the show is brought to you by Double Dave's. That's at 10:50. But right now, caller number 12, 979-693-1150. We're going to hook you up with your choice of a dozen pepperoni rolls or a large one-topping pizza from Double Dave's. They've been serving Aggieland since 1984 with your favorite pizza and, of course, those world-famous pepperoni rolls. Reliable in-house delivery, bringing piping hot goodness straight to your door. Just click on doubledaves.com and your favorites are on their way. Continuing baseball talk with Ryan Brauninger. We both came away pretty impressed with that interview. The fire, he's got some reasoning on how, or plans to fix things. And until it gets fixed, people are going to be upset, but they're trying.
Yeah, you got to find, some sunshine to break the ice, right? And I do think that what we are hearing from our perspective as the baseball analyst, as the radio show host, is I think Coach Earley is finding his voice. He's been better in his interviews, more energetic. I think the talking points have been right on. Like he hit the nail on the head on a lot of the stuff he just told us. And you cannot, as to me, as the figurehead of an organization, specifically one that's got that many eyeballs on it, like you got to kind of, whatever's happening on the field can affect the stuff and how you portray yourself toward the program. And I think he's understanding that, right? Like, again, he's getting more comfortable doing these things. I think he's figuring out how to handle all the responsibilities of a head coach, which there was no way for him to know going in. And I think, first of all, I know how frustrated he and the staff are with the record. And he's right. He said it's unacceptable how many times. And that's correct. The injuries have hurt him, but not to the point where they should be losing this many games. And he knows that. He keeps running guys out there to left field because they've got a massive hole without Caden Sorrell, and nobody steps up. And I don't fault him for trying Blake Bender up out there. And then he gave Sam Erickson a shot. He gives Jamal George a shot. It wouldn't surprise me. He mentioned Hayden Schott playing out there. That's where we're at, is that none of these guys off the bench have stepped up. So you're going to have to run a one-legged man out there potentially just to get Caden Sorrell back in the lineup. And you don't want to pull Schott out because Schott's going better now over the last week and a half than he did to start the season. So that might be where you're at, is that you're going to run a guy with one meniscus out there to left field to try to play because nobody else has stepped up and taken that mantle.
Yeah.
And credit to Ben Royo for coming in. And I don't know how much he was expected to play, back in January. But since inserting him at second base, the defense has been really good. They played outstanding defense in Nashville, and a lot of that was attributed to him at second base. So do you see Sawyer Farr tomorrow in the midweek against Houston Christian play left field? Maybe. They're just going to keep rotating guys out there until they get a fully healthy Sorrell back, and then that makes it very easy. He goes to right, TK goes to left, and Jace is in center. But they've got to try stuff. You saw Hayden Kreitz get an at-bat over the weekend in a pinch hit role, and I saw a lot of folks who were questioning that. I don't question it at all. Who else is giving you confidence as a left-handed hitter that early in a game? So you could have played Jacob Galloway, but you don't want to burn your backup catcher that early in a game in a pinch hit role. Coach Earley just said that whoever starts in left field or in one of these, like maybe the DH spot, they might get only one at-bat. That's where we're at right now. And so desperate times call for desperate measures, and they are going to keep trying to fix this thing so they can find some sort of terra firma that they can propel themselves off of until Sorrell gets back. So I don't blame him for trying all that. I know, like for the Hayden Kreitz, for instance, like that kid works his tail off. He hasn't played, and he has gone to practice every day and really sold out to make himself a better player. His dad's a coach, so he's got that in his DNA. And that kid, because of how he's worked and the stuff he'd done in the midweek, he's earned an opportunity. Now, he didn't get it done, but I think you seeing him come to the plate in that scenario on the road in the SEC means something, that he's put himself in the coach's eyes in a spot where they believe he was the best option.
Follow me here, because I don't think Caden Sorrell back in the lineup is a magic pill that fixes everything. That being said, had he been healthy earlier, I think the mindset of players around him is different than it is now because they've had so much losing and because it's been such a rough fall. What does inserting a Caden Sorrell do for this team now, whenever he is able to come out, if it's a DH or in the next couple weeks?
Well, you saw what happened in 2023 with Brett Minnick when he came back, and the offense took a big step forward.
They were 1-8 or 1-7 to start off,
something like that.
Yeah.
And so the offense took a big step forward when Minnick got back, and Minnick even came off the bench. Came off that injury and just started going nuts at the plate. And you can't expect Sorrell. I think that it's over. You know what you said is correct. To act like he is going to be the fix-all for this team is too heavy-handed. You can't put that expectation just on one guy. But I do think it'll help some guys maybe relax around him, and then you hopefully that Caden can hit the ground running. But it may take him 4 or 5 games to catch his footing. But obviously he's got as long of a leash as anybody else in the lineup. But Coach Earley talked so much about the bottom of the order just being a nothing, and he's correct. The Saturday game against Vanderbilt, game 3, the Commodores were 5 for 7 in their 8-9 hole. A&M they haven't even sniffed that in the 8-9 hole. It was almost automatic punch out. Now, Ben Royo is going to keep playing because of how good he's been at second base. But they have got to find a way. And the offensive identity of teams of the past can't be this team's offensive identity anymore. You just can't. You don't have the slug that you had coming into the season with Sorrell and Grahovic. When you're missing that much slugging percentage, you can't be that team anymore. So when Jamal George gets his shot, when Sam Erickson gets his shot, when Jacob Galloway gets his shot, I'm missing another guy that hits toward the bottom, Royo. All these guys, they have to be way better about moving the baseball. And they have to be way better, like Coach Earley said, at getting on first base. Quit thinking about scoring runs. Quit thinking about getting hits. The best thing a hitter can do in the game of baseball, what do you think the best outcome? I'm asking you this just to get your perspective on it, because there is an answer to me. What do you think the best outcome for a hitter is?
Get on base.
Not to make an out. That's the best outcome. It's not a homer. It's not an extra base hit. The best outcome for a hitter is not to make an out.
Well, the best outcome is a home run.
No.
How's
incorrect? Because if you chase that outcome overall.
No. But chasing, I'm not talking about chasing.
From a team baseball perspective,
Yes.
The best outcome is to not make an out. Doesn't mean just get on first. It means not make an out, whatever that is. Because outs are finite. Runs are not finite. So if you make an out, you are cutting down that finite number. And I think for this club right now, and I'm not talking about Kent, Hensler, Jace. TK does a good job of this, even though I'm really not speaking to him. But the rest of them get to first. Do not record an out. And I think there's a mentality there that goes, if I walk into the box thinking I cannot strike out, I'm worried about striking out, guess what happens?
You strike out.
I start expanding the zone and swinging at pitches I think I can hit, and all of a sudden, I strike out. Like I'm in opportunities to strike out. We saw it over and over this weekend. A&M was in the first 2 games of the series, Texas A&M was in 29 0-2 counts. 29 0-2 counts. That's insanity. They were 0 for 18 over the first 2 games. So game 1, game 2 did not get a leadoff man on. 0 for 18. Through 24 innings, through 24 offensive innings, 17 of those started with the first 2 guys getting out. So 17 of your 24 innings were 2 outs, nobody on.
Can't win that way.
Yes, you cannot score runs that way. And do you credit Vanderbilt's pitching staff? Yes, part of it. Those are good arms, and they attack the strike zone. But Texas A&M never gave them any fear of attacking and being that aggressive in the strike zone.
Have you ever seen, I honestly don't know historically what 49 strikeouts is in a series.
I don't know.
It's got to be.
It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. Coach Earley said that. It's unacceptable. And I would bet that the practice today, the practice tomorrow before the midweek, the practices Wednesday and Thursday are not going to be fun for a large group of those hitters. Again, I don't think we're talking about the top 4 in the order, maybe even the top 5. I think Cash is really coming along. But for the rest of them, so 6 through 9, and then the guys, 10 through 13, this is going to be a tough week of practice. And it's going to be highly competitive, and it has to be. And I think you have to make mechanical changes with a bunch of dudes with 2 strikes. They've got to get on the plate. They've got to spread their feet. They got to take the load out, and they've got to make really simple swing decisions. One of the biggest swings of the entire weekend was R.J. Austin of Vanderbilt, a 3-year starter, veteran, really good SEC player, with the bases loaded and 2 outs. Excuse me, 1 out. Bases loaded and 1 out. Luke Jackson throws a slider to him that is off the plate in the other batter's box and down. And this guy isn't overswinging. This guy isn't trying to do too much. He just extends the barrel. This ball's not in the strike zone.
Yeah.
And he flips it out over the second baseman's head. And I watched, and that's a veteran SEC hitter with skins on the wall that's like swallowing his pride. I don't want to hit the homer. I just want to move the baseball in this scenario. He swallows his pride and does that. And I watch A&M hitter come up one after the other, expand the strike zone, not even close, taking these giant hacks, swinging through pitches in like really hittable areas. Their whiff rate in the strike zone is way too high, and that's from overswinging.
What do you think? And I think you're kind of answering it here, but 18 to 22-year-olds' mindset at this point of the season is to make up for what has already happened, right?
You're seeing that. That's what's manifesting with these giant swings on pitches in the strike zone.
I'm going to try to get 8 wins on this one home run.
Yes, and if it's Jace or Kent or Hensler doing that, and Hensler really doesn't have a propensity to do that. He's pretty consistent in his plan and his approach and his kind of his swing mechanics and swing intent. But if it's Jace, Kent, even Cash at times, like I'm fine with that. Like these guys have been through it. They know when they can cheat and when they can't. I'm fine with those guys doing that. But it's the bottom of the order that it cannot happen. It just can't. And I know the mental reasoning behind, like you said, is I have to do it. Mm-hmm. I have to do it right now. And it can't be that. And so there is going to be really competitive scenarios, I would imagine, brought forth in practice. And I also think they can do some things with the order that can potentially give them more production.
Thank you, Bronny. Appreciate you. We'll hit a break. We'll come back, talk to Tom Hart about the NCAA Tournament, Aggie basketball, Aggie baseball, and hopefully some football as well. Right now, we're talking Heritage Films. They're a documentary company for families, right? They'll do a documentary on your dad, your uncle, your grandmother, your family business, your family ranch, your family get-together. It doesn't even have to be about families. It can be about cool events that you do with your family, or with your good friends, I should say. If it's golfing on the weekends, hunting, if it's a flag football game that you guys do for the Turkey Bowl every Thanksgiving, whatever it may be, let Chance McClain and his team tell that story in a 2-hour documentary form that can be passed on from generation to generation. I did one on my father. We've done actually a year flicks, which are a little bit shorter options that they do for my daughter Annalise. Awesome. Q&A for the kids is great. You'll love it. The website is yourheritagefilm.com. Yourheritagefilm.com, 713-893-8341, 713-893-8341. It's Heritage Films. All right, we're back. TexAgs Live. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Hour number 2 of the program. Let's go to the Buffy's Catering Hotline. Talk to Tom Hart here on the program from the SEC Network and ESPN. Tom, good morning.
David, how we doing this morning?
What do you think? What do you think?
Not a great weekend.
No.
Not a great weekend.
No, I mean, well, softball looked great from an A&M perspective. Happy about that. Track and field is always doing great. There's things that are good, right?
Yeah.
But basketball-wise, Tom, I'm having a hard time, not with the loss, because I knew Michigan was a really good program and they were hot at the right time and was not hot at the right time. But I'm having a hard time wondering if they met expectations, because I think there's 2 acceptable answers, okay? No, they didn't meet expectations. 8 seniors, you expected to go further than you went last year, right? And you were the higher seeded team. The other one is, I knew this team's limitations. So in a way, as the season unfolded, I recognize against these teams in a tournament setting, you can't have droughts like A&M has. So maybe they did reach expectations as I saw those offensive limitations happen.
I think you're right with the word limitations. I mean, there's the margin of error for this team to win against top 25 opponents. Let's just put it like, I think that's the best way to kind of sum it up. The margin of error is thin, but the formula is resolute. Like, we know exactly what the formula is for this A&M team to beat teams that are maybe more talented or more skilled. And I'm talking about offensive skill and being efficient on the half court, shooting for a higher percentage. And Buzz talked about this in his postgame. I mean, the fact of the matter is Michigan got to the free throw line, got in the bonus early, got to the free throw line, I think, 10 more times than A&M did. That is a losing proposition. Or if that happens, you better make it up somewhere else. Well, it's going to be really hard to out-rebound Michigan. And they didn't out-rebound Michigan. So there's 2 strikes against you. Okay, well, if those 2 things happen, you better get a major performance, a superstar performance from your superstar player. And I thought Payne played fantastic. I thought both games of the tournament, he was awesome. But Wade Taylor wasn't able to knock down those shots. So I think that if any one of those categories you can put a check mark in the box, then you're talking about a different game. I mean, 71 points through the first, 80% of that game, man, that's a pretty good offensive outing for this Texas A&M team. But then you give up a 20-5 run. You don't get stops, which this team is very good at doing. You put them at the free throw line. Typically, this team doesn't do that, or at least they go to the line more, right? I mean, you have a 3-hour game against Alabama where everybody's shooting free throws the entire afternoon. Earlier this season, back in January, you can mitigate that if you're going to the line a lot more. So I feel like it was the perfect storm. You get out rebounded by a bigger front line. There's no shame in that, because Michigan out rebounds a lot of guys with 2 7-footers in there, a lot of teams. But you just didn't make up the difference in those other areas. And I think that's what doomed the Aggies against the Wolverines.
So did they meet expectations this year?
I think the expectations, I think you look at this holistically, and I'm thinking from the Wade Taylor perspective, and a guy who leaves as the leading scorer in school history, who gets his number up in the rafters. What is the biggest takeaway from his time at A&M? How deep in the tournament did they go? What kind of memories did they create for fans? And I think there were some certain high water marks, but no, I think in this day and age I don't think they met expectations, because I think in this day and age, the easiest secret to success in college basketball is to get old and to stay old and to be a mature team with 22, 23, 24-year-olds out there. And with all those seniors that you talked about, and I think the way this roster was put together really well, like bringing in a sharpshooter like Wilcher, that's your role. You knock down threes. We got Wade that's going to get to the rim and get to the free throw line. We got dudes inside that can cover for us. But I think at the same time, there's a lot of teams that didn't meet expectations this year, that whose seasons have already come to an end that failed to cash in. So I would say just a hair below, not to be too hypercritical, but it's a disappointing end for sure.
And I know people don't want to hear this. I think they somewhat met expectations, and my expectations are low because I feel like my teams haven't reached what I feel like should be the expectations, right? There's that. And then I also take a step aside and said, man, I had so much fun covering this team. This is a really fun team to cover. People don't want to hear that. But from my perspective, my seat, I enjoy watching Anderson Garcia play basketball. How can you not love the way that guy plays? And others. Henry Coleman, Wade. I love the way Wade attacks the rim. Sometimes I don't want him to have the green light shooting those crazy threes, but when he hits them, we all love it. So there's a lot to celebrate from that team. But at the end of the day, I think it's sad that this group did not make it to the second weekend.
Yeah, and to your point, there's a lot to celebrate, and there are a lot of feel-good moments that fans of this team are going to remember for a really long time. I mean, the ceremony with Wade Taylor coming after a win against number one, that was one of the most joyous crowds I've ever been in. And I thought that was an awesome moment for the entire program and the fan base. It's just unfortunate that you can't capitalize on it. There may be a parallel. I had the A&M Vandy game Thursday. There may be a parallel with the way last baseball season ended and where we are now. And because it's all about expectations, right? It's like, oh my gosh, we're bringing back so much talent. We've got this energy around the program, kind of like with the basketball season ended in the regular season. We've got great momentum. We knocked off number one. What's next? Man, my expectations are through the roof. And then when you don't meet them, I think it hits harder.
Talking to Tom Hart here on TexAgs Live. Tom, baseball hasn't met expectations. And I say that kind of jokingly, but having empathy for what Coach Earley's going through, also recognizing every week is a similar story and a different story. This past weekend it was the 49 strikeouts. I have empathy. I want it to work for those guys. I want it to work for Coach Earley. Each passing series gets a little bit harder to see light at the end of the tunnel.
Well, he and his staff are working their ass off, and I think first and foremost, there's nobody resting on any of this. And I heard a bit of the interview when he was on with you earlier, taking ownership and accountability. We are in a day and age where these players are professionals. That's a simple fact. They're getting paid to play the game. And I think that accountability comes down to your star players, not just to produce themselves, but to be great leaders in the locker room. And we understand what the injuries are, and everybody understands how that leaves this A&M roster at this moment shorthanded. When you're getting paid to play and people have invested in you, it's your job to deliver more than just individual stats. There's a reason when people talk about the best shortstops in the game, we talk about Jeter before we talk about A-Rod, right? Jeter seemed to lift everybody up. You don't win as many World Series as he did. Yeah, was he talented? Yes. Was he an incredible leader? Absolutely, yes. And that is a responsibility. Jace Laviolette, the game we had, he got on base 3 times. He hit the home run in the first inning. I thought his approach at the plate was exactly what we saw. But what else did I see? I saw him kick 2 balls in center field. One he didn't quite get to, and I'm just offering a snapshot of the moment, right? Because it's just one game in the 22 that they've played in the course of the season. And I thought the top third of the lineup did its job. The bottom half, obviously, when you have depth issues, that's where it's going to show up. And we don't know, Bronny has a much better feel, what happens in that clubhouse every day of the week and in the cages. But if I'm an A&M guy, I need Jace Laviolette being at the front and center and getting after every ball that comes his way and picking guys up in the dugout and picking guys up in the cage. And that's a responsibility that comes with being a professional athlete. And I think we have, and I'm not putting it all on his shoulders, but I'm seeing it in the NCAA basketball tournament too, both men's and women's. We have these athletes that want the credit, and the credit is, where's my NIL? And they somehow lose the accountability that comes with, hey, listen, you're being forced into adulthood here. You're being forced into being a leader. If you're going to accept that comes with a great deal of responsibility. And I know it's a different roster from last year. I know it's not exactly the same. But for this team to pull it out, and I think they will, to pull out of this, I think you'll start hearing these stories of, well, the seniors, the leaders, the juniors, the upperclassmen, they took charge of this team, because I think there's only so much a coaching staff can do in some of these scenarios.
Tom, I appreciate it, man. We'll talk soon.
Bye, David. Be good.
Tom Hart, SEC Network on TexAgs Live. All right, we'll hit a break here. We'll come back with Around Aggieland. Colin on the YouTube page says Nuño's delusional. I don't know what I said that was delusional. I do say things that are delusional from time to time. I don't know what exactly in the last 5 minutes was delusional. That I like the players, maybe that's what it was. I should hate them. That's what I'll do. I'll just do that moving forward. Milliken Reserve Time, farm to table community in College Station. They got homes, they got trails, they got farms, they got wide open spaces. It's a great place for somebody who's delusional just to get out in nature and to live stress-free. You go outside, enjoy the sun rays, enjoy being outdoors, connecting with your family. It makes losses, not acceptable, but you can get away from it. That's what I love to do when I go to Milliken Reserve. Be outside to go hiking, biking, canoeing, the kayaking, the equestrian trails, the fishing, the evening yoga, you name it. They have all these awesome events at Milliken Reserve that you can take a part of. You don't even have to live there. But if you do want to live there, they got some great neighborhoods there as well. Check out all the information at millikenreserve.com. That website, again, millikenreserve.com. Check it out. We're about to do Around Aggieland, presented by Norman G. State Bank, Rock Solid Banking. The website is normangstatebank.com. Got Kay Naegeli here. Kay and Nick, I want to go back and forth because something Colin brought up, and I just want to talk it through, okay? Colin said that I'm delusional, and I'm not upset with Colin. You can think that, that's fine. He says, let me see if I can find his commentary, basically that I said that they met my expectations. I never said that A&M met my desires. I think my expectations, and tell me how you guys agree or disagree with this. my expectations changed as I saw this team play. Doesn't mean I didn't. Expectations are where I expect them to go, and I expected to be underwhelmed. That's what I'm getting at, and that's a sad indictment on Aggie athletics. Unfortunately, being a fan since the '80s, right? That being said, I don't accept it. I also don't need to be mean and fire everybody and get mad at players. In my opinion, they are a team that offensively left a lot to be desired. And when I thought about a tournament setting, I thought maybe they'll win one. I'd love to see them win two. And the expectations were, preseason expectations were to make it to the second weekend. As we saw the season play out, I started to question that. Nick, start us off.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're getting at is your expectations in the non-conference that you mentioned. They exceeded expectations there. SEC play, I think you predicted the record like right on the money. If I remember, it was around 11 or 12 wins, so they hit the nail right on the head there. But I mean, yeah, it seemed to me that their expectation all offseason was make it to the second weekend, and they didn't do that. So a little disappointing. But
Nicholas adds, and Kay here, the general sentiment of what you're saying comes off, this season met expectations. I don't think anyone's saying to be mean. It just feels like spin. If this is spin, they're a bad shooting team that I didn't expect to shoot well in March. I'm sorry. That feels pretty direct. I'm not trying to defend myself. I'm just being honest. It's not spin.
Yeah.
Spin is like creating a reason for. Yes, there is a reason. They're not a good shooting team.
Yeah. And
that's why my expectations, preseason expectations, 8 seniors, top 15 in the country, they should make it to the second weekend. I still thought they could make it to the second weekend. No doubt. They were a few minutes away from doing it.
Yeah.
But because they struggled to score, my personal expectations, because I'm used to A&M not meeting my desired outcomes, becomes I just bring it down a notch. Doesn't mean I accept it. It just means how I see it. Okay.
Yeah. I think when you looked at the returning production numbers that you saw at the beginning of the season, you got really excited because you're like, it was like what, 80 something percent?
Yeah.
So I feel like that's where a lot of the letdown comes, and it's just a repetitive top 15 team and then drops below what we wanted them to do. So just another disappointment.
You've got a minute and a half to do Around Aggieland. But sometimes we just got to chat here.
That's fine. We've talked some baseball. We know what happened there. We've talked a lot of basketball. We've talked softball. They had their second consecutive top 25 series, and they will play some non-conference action. They will have a midweek against Sam Houston on Tuesday. Let's move over to track and field. Texas A&M's Kamara Farquharson won the silver medal in the men's 4x4 with Team Jamaica on the final day of the World Athletics Indoor Championships on Sunday. Brandon Miller, that's a name y'all should be familiar with, also had an impressive showing in the men's 800 championship, finishing 5th in the final. Moving over to women's tennis, that's a program we need to talk about more. They beat Ole Miss and LSU this weekend to claim their 64th and 65th consecutive win over at Mitchell Tennis Center. I mean, what program has a 65-game winning streak at home? Absolutely ridiculous. And then men's tennis concluded also a perfect 2-0 weekend on the road with a sweep of Ole Miss, and then they knocked off the Vanderbilt Commodores 4-3 in Nashville. And also we have some golf action happening, so make sure to check our site for all those updates there.
Appreciate you, KK. Thank you very much. TexAgs 75. My expectations are always this: football equals playoffs, baseball equals College World Series, basketball equals the Sweet 16. Desired outcomes and expectations to me are different. Like, you could be a fan of the worst team in any sport and still desire them to win at all. Like, I think they can because we have these resources. But my expectations sometimes are a little bit lower because I'm running out of time for this segment. It's TexAgs Live. We're back here on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. So I think maybe we have a difference in language. We're going to get Billy here on the show in a moment, probably on the phone, or I'm not sure if he's coming to the studio yet. But I do think there's a difference in language. Expectations versus desired outcomes. So I did have preseason expectations, as I think we all did. And then my expectations kind of went through this like, well, if we get the right matchup, and if we do this, if we do that, like that. The reality, that's how I saw A&M this season from a basketball perspective. But I asked good old Google to help me out with this. Expectations versus, this is funny, this is going to make you guys laugh, versus reality. Recognize the difference. Understand that expectations are what you anticipate or hope will happen, while reality is what actually will occur. Be honest with yourself. Consider what is truly achievable and align your expectations with the capabilities and circumstances. Communicate clearly. Openly discuss your expectations with others to avoid misunderstandings and ensure alignment. I'm reading all this because what I think were like expectations. Did they meet my preseason expectations? No, they did not. Did my expectations throughout the year kind of change where I was like, in a perfect situation, we can get to the second weekend and maybe maybe against Auburn, we've already beat them. We can beat them and get to the Elite Eight and go somewhere we've never been. Those are all things that I thought were possible. Possibilities versus expectations are different things. All right. The other thing I put on here, expectations versus desires. Hey, now, while both involve wanting something, desires are what we wish for or long to have, while expectations are beliefs about what we think will happen. So, as a group, we all felt underwhelmed with Aggie basketball's run this season. I also think we had a fun time watching them play this year. If the end of the day, the only way you're going to be happy was if they won a national championship, then you're going to be unhappy most years and forever, right? Like, unless they win one here, like you're consistently going to be unhappy. So I think we can be upset. You guys do realize that Billy, myself, Nick, Kay, everybody, like we're disappointed with what happened. I don't think being disappointed and explaining to you what I think happened is spin. You can take it this. I mean, we all have our own opinions. They didn't shoot well, and they got beat at their own game. That's as frank as I can be, as honest as I can be, right? Just the reality. Did I expect them to beat Michigan heading into the game? I did. I thought I was worried because Michigan was hot, and I don't think A&M has played hot, but I still think my expectation entering that game was A&M would win. When they were up 10, I remember thinking to myself, when it was at 60-50, and thinking, if they can just, put their foot on the gas a little bit here, a big Wade 3. I think at that point, I'm trying to remember, Manny Obaseki shot a 3 right in front of me, like literally in front of me, and he missed. It was a corner shot, and I thought to myself, if he hits this as it's happening, that might be a dagger, bro. And he did not hit that 3, unfortunately. So at the 10-point mark or 60-50 mark, this is a critical juncture. And then Wade hits a 3 a little bit later to put them up 4, and I'm like, all right, we got to answer. We got to answer here. But it just seemed like A&M couldn't stop them. And when the offense went as cold as it did, and again, every game, pretty much every loss this season, you can look at these gaps of offensive opportunities, right? Gaps of scoring, these droughts that just continued to plague A&M. And unfortunately for them, it happened in the last few minutes or the last 13 minutes of the game. So more than a few minutes. Like the last 13 minutes, they did not score much. They went away from what I thought was working for them, which was working inside out as opposed to outside in, right? The outside in part of it. And they stopped going to Pharrell. And some of that might have been because they were playing catch up. They missed some point blank shots. I think Michigan's size got to you. And again, as we've said multiple times, they beat you at your own game. They got to the line more than you. They got more rebounds than you. They hit their free throws more than you did. Like they adjusted in the second half. And it was just A&M couldn't counter. They just could not counter. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center as we try to get Billy on. I think they're calling him up. Kaylee, let's try to get one thing in before we get Billy on.
We have a comment from Randy on the YouTube chat talking about basketball. He says, I'm not a conspiracy guy, but an Ivy League team and then the hottest 5 in the country with height seemed unfair.
I think if you're good, it doesn't matter what you get. Like, unfair. It was fair. I think A&M got a fine matchup. I got no problem with their matchup. I don't. They ran into a hot team who hit more shots than you did and rebounded more than you did and went to the line more than you did. I mean, Michigan adjusted in the second half. Billy, good morning, buddy. How are you?
Hey, Dave. Davey. What's up?
Bill, what up, buddy? So we were having, because I think it's an interesting discussion.
Yeah.
Expectations versus desired outcomes, I think, are completely different things. And I asked the question earlier, did they meet my expectations? And I broke it down in a couple different ways, Billy.
Okay.
Preseason expectations, I had this team going to the second weekend of the tournament.
Same.
As the season unfolded, I questioned if that was was it a realistic outcome? Sure, with the right matchup. But I always, in the back of my mind, wondered, these scoring droughts, so are they going to come back and bite you when you take on these teams that are good, right? Like that. And so did they meet my preseason expectations? No. Did they meet all of our expectations? They didn't meet our desired results.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think losing to Michigan in the second round of the NCAA tournament is like unheard of. Like that's a good program that was playing very hot basketball at the end of the year.
Yeah, and I'll start with, they won the Big Ten title. I heard you say they were hot. They were hot. It was a game, when you watch the game the way it was played, A&M should have won that game. You ratchet down when you're up 10. You finish off that game because that's why you're on the court. And when you control a basketball game midway through the second half, you should win it. Period. They know that. So I'm really disappointed in the outcome of that game. How long do I think the run would have lasted? I would probably have felt a lot worse had Creighton knocked off Auburn. It's just beating Auburn in Atlanta. If that game was anywhere but Atlanta, I think that's going to be a tall order for Michigan or anybody. But if anyone was going to do it like a lower seed, teams like A&M or Ole Miss could do it, being familiar with Auburn, and particularly Buzz versus Bruce Pearl and the success he's had against him. So there was a little bit left out there, but A&M, even though they beat Auburn at home, they were not better. So I don't feel like I feel like that path, that was the big roadblock. It wasn't Michigan. Okay, so you can say, well, they didn't get an unfair draw, and I agree with you, because people are going, well, had they not screwed up that 3 seed, they made it hard.
They may have had it harder.
But see, you say that, but yeah, okay, so they're a 3 seed playing Ole Miss or BYU in the second round?
BYU looks like, yeah.
Did you watch Ole Miss last night? So, it's not that. And I do think Michigan, I told Luke this, and by the way, Luke,
killed it.
You guys all did a great job up there. Luke has done an amazing job of covering basketball this year, and everyone should be telling him what a good job he's done. It's been a breath of fresh air. We were in a transition period last year. I think I told him, here's your sport, take it and run with it.
He has.
Do a podcast, get former players on there. You know how much I've helped him get those former players? Pretty much zero. I gave him a list of names. Pretty much that was it. So him and whoever else helped him, they've done an incredible job.
Yep.
Now, with that said, I disagreed with him and Dawson back there, the gambling guru, because they were so scared of UC San Diego and the 3-pointers. Oh, we give up 3. I get it. They were so scared. I was watching that game against Michigan, hoping so badly that UC San Diego won. Michigan is a better basketball team. They are much more used to playing against teams A&M's level. They do it all year.
Yep.
We've talked about the common opponents. And they had 2 7-footers. And that was my biggest. I thought A&M would win. I still think A&M should have won. Do not get me wrong. You will not convince me otherwise. They let one get away. I'll talk about something else in a minute in terms of how much that bothers you moving down the road if you're the Aggies. But they the 2 7-footers were a massive concern for me because what is A&M best at? Getting fouled, getting to the line. Wade and Zurich driving to the basket. Wade and Zurich driving to the basket and rebounding more than anything else. But how tall is Solo?
6'6".
Yeah. How tall is Andy? 6'7", 6'6"? How tall is
they're undersized team.
It's those guys. Henry, 6'6".
Maybe Farrell is 6'9".
Farrell's got the real height and length, and Andy's got length, but they're not. They rebound because they outfight your ass and they outposition.
Mm-hmm.
When you put 2 7-foot behemoths in there before the ball's even tipped, you're at your biggest strength, your biggest advantage is diminished significantly, unless you can get them into foul trouble, which they were really unable to do. And we talk officiating all day, but that's not. They just didn't get it done. I didn't like that matchup, though. I wanted UC San Diego, but I still think A&M, over the course of the season, was the better team, and they looked like it through 30 minutes, and then they looked nothing like it for 10 minutes. And to let a team turn it around on you that fast, that's like blowing a 10-point second half leads evaporate all the time in the final 10 minutes. It's not that. It's that it was 35-9 in the final whatever minutes. It was 42 or 44-19 from that certain point on. So it would be like being up 10 to start the fourth quarter and losing by 21. Not 21. It'd be like you're up in a football game by 14 points going in the fourth quarter, and you end up losing by 10. They outscore you by 24 points in the fourth quarter. That's what that felt like. Losing a 10-point lead, I mean, nobody thought the game was over with 8, but you knew A&M was in control.
Yeah.
And you knew you had...
Up until that point, they were the better team, for sure.
Yeah, and you knew... And that was playing half the half without Wade. And by the way, that was a... potentially, we will never know, because at the time, Wade had no points, but for him to commit that foul, which both of his first half fouls were just silly, and I'm sure Wade would sit here and go, yeah, that was really bad. To shove that 7-footer in his back to try to get him off the block on a rebound in the first, and to take your second foul with 10 minutes, that really hurt not having him. Yep. And I know they were up. What were they up by at half? Was it 6 or 4?
4, I think it was.
But to be up really spoke volumes of the way everybody kind of picked their game up. But why couldn't that have been 10 with Wade in there for 10 minutes? So there were a lot of things that Wade's shot was in and out on that 3. On that possession there at the end where they're down 3 with 1:20, plenty of time left. It felt like they were about to do one of those miraculous comebacks. Andy damn near steals it and is going to go coast to coast to cut it to 1 with well over a minute left. He can't quite make an amazing play on a lazy pass. And then that guy at the end of the shot clock just throws up a freaking prayer with no idea where the ball was going, and it goes in. So there were some unlucky breaks in there too, but that's a game they should have won, dude. And they should be playing this weekend, and there should be 8 SEC teams in the Sweet 16, and there should be 3 out of 4 in Atlanta for just a damn party that A&M should be a part of right now. And that's bitterly disappointing to me as a fan of Aggie sports, as someone that really thought, like, the more this team played, the more they could have pulled off the improbable. And they're flawed, David.
Yeah.
They're flawed. You talk about those scoring droughts, and it's like, I joke with you because I'm like, you're just begging for them to get knocked out because of a scoring drought. But it's like, Michigan has their own issues that they carried into that tournament. Ole Miss does. Everybody does. You look at the body of work for the season and you go, they overcame it. And you say, okay, when they do lose, this is how. We all knew that. But in a lot of their big wins this year, they overcame those scoring droughts. So, yeah, it was eventually like when they're out, that's going to be – but they're a flawed team, just like, again, like Michigan was, like most of these teams still playing this year. There are very few that aren't.
So there's a comment that says, if your expectations weren't to make the Sweet 16, then you're contributing to the mediocrity. And no, I disagree. But again, I think expectations can evolve.
Yeah.
Right? There's a preseason expectations. I thought they were going to beat Michigan and go to the Sweet 16.
My expectations went up at some point during the season.
But at times they went down. Like towards the end of the season, they went down because of the way they played.
Yeah.
But again, expectations, desired results are different things. At the end of the day, did this team meet our expectations? Well, if we're talking about from the beginning of the season, no. If we're talking about when they were hot, no. If we're
they went through a scoring drought against Texas and scored 90. I mean, it's double overtime. They had 80 or so by end of regulation.
Right.
They had 27 at halftime. I mean, look, here's one thing I want to talk. We're going to stick a little longer today, I'm sure, but we'll address this expectation. But this whole thing of like, if your expectations here and mine's here, I'm right and you're wrong. Or I'm going to say, I know what your expectation level is, despite what you say, but I think it's here. Therefore, you're wrong and you're part of the problem. Like, a lot of people are just assuming what people expect or desire or think is good enough. For me, I thought this team should be in the second weekend. I think after 6 years and that build up to this team, I think they should have been in. I don't think Buzz Williams should go anywhere. I don't think Buzz should leave and go in search of something better. I don't think that would be, I think he would do that and not find it. I think this is not perfect. Look, this guy's been through 3 ADs since he's been here. He's been through multiple university presidents. He's watched football coaches come and go. Like, I get, like, it's not a perfect situation. His sport administrator was let go. If I was him, I'd be sitting there like, okay, like, this is what my years here have looked like. Make me feel better about what's coming. Let's talk. I need to hear it. I think that's reasonable. I also think if you're on the other side of it, you're going, okay, well, we haven't made it out of the first weekend in 6 years. My question would not be, okay, we're going to bend over backwards to accommodate and stuff. But I would say, what are we doing since I'm an AD? Like, what do you need to get you there? Because you're our coach. What do you need?
Yep.
What don't you have that you need? And that would be the conversation, not, I don't think Buzz should be leaving. I certainly don't think A&M should be looking in another direction. I think that's insane. I have higher expectations than the first weekend. I think when you look around the SEC and how many, 7 teams are in there. 7 teams are in there.
Should is the better word. Should be in the
Other
second weekend.
A&M coaches have gotten there. Some in the SEC, some in the Big 12. This team, and I think last year's team, were both good enough to get there. And they just didn't do it. Look at how long there were years where Kentucky couldn't get there under, I was about to say effing, because he's effing John Calipari with all the money in the world, and they couldn't get there. He gets there with Arkansas with a 10 seed, and St. John's did what A&M didn't do, and they finished the year strong, and they got a 2 seed, and they're done. They're out in round 1 to a 10 seed that A&M beat. Like, how many A&M have 5 wins against this Sweet 16?
Yeah.
This was a good year, guys. This has been a good program now for a few years. It has not taken the step to be, well, obviously great is a whole nother, but it hasn't taken the step, that next step, that second weekend step that, I mean, they spent a lot of time in the top 10 this year because of those wins we're talking about. But they haven't gone from good to great, you know?
Yep.
And that's a tough step. Auburn's great. Alabama's great. Tennessee's great. They had to take a step to get there. Now, I don't know how many years it took in each of those instances. I'm going to assume less than 6, but I'm also going to say, you know, I don't know the support at those places in terms of NIL. It's not apples to apples, though, because they're winning so much that you would imagine the NIL excitement has gone up.
Mm-hmm.
If this team right here went to a Final Four like Bama did, like Auburn's done under Pearl, like Tennessee's done under Barnes, if they did that, I think Tennessee went last year, right? Am I wrong? Did they go to
Final
Elite
Four?
Eight?
No. I think they got to the Elite Eight
last year.
Yeah.
If that program does that, you're going to see the excitement level grow and the NIL stuff go up. So it's not necessarily apples to apples. It's not like Calipari going to Arkansas and before he ever coaches a game, they're cutting massive checks to build a roster. That's an outlier. And look, if there's an outlier program that's a basketball school in any sport that wants your guy, then that coach, barring just family or loyalty to the current player, should probably go. And hell, they can take the players with them these days too. So why would you never go? But otherwise you got to build it and win. And sometimes it's a painful build. And this has been, I wouldn't call it painful. This was a good year.
Yeah.
I think they fell short of my expectations. And look, I'm a little conflicted, David, on what I heard from the players after the game and buzz, where it's like, essentially, we don't care what anybody thinks of our legacy. I totally get and agree with that. Like, none of us, no fans, nobody shares in those memories when they're 30 years old, 50 years old, coming back. Like, that's their group. What Buzz and his staff are doing for these guys down the road in life is immeasurable. It's frankly, it's badass. There's not a team on this campus that doesn't go to more sporting events together to support stuff around town. That they're great with the I mean, there's the most awesome group for a college basketball team I've ever covered. And I also know how bad they wanted to win that game.
Mm-hmm.
But in the immediate right after the game, to me, it's like, yeah, it is part of your legacy as an athlete, how far you go in this tournament. I mean, there was stuff left on the table basketball-wise.
Yep.
Not life-wise, not character-wise. Like, they filled up that bucket more than you can quantify. And I get, like, long-term, that's what matters the most. But in sports, like, you want to get to the Super Bowl. You want to win the World Series. You want to go to the Final Four. You want to cut down the nets. I mean, that is what it is. So I think sometimes it comes off more like, it's almost like we're dug in together. Like, there's so many fans there that supported. There's so many fans that come to Reed Arena. The fans love these guys. They really do. Forget what a couple people say on, like, social media, these outlier POSs, frankly, for lack of a better word. That's not the fan base. That's not Aggies. They've ingratiated themselves. But at the end of the day, it is like there's a score, and I know they compete to that. And I know they were devastated. I watched them. I looked at Solomon Washington crying on the bench. I felt for him because I know he left it all out there. So it's kind of like there's a disconnect sometimes, I think, in that messaging coming out of where, like, Buzz last week and how they're saying it almost feels like it's us against everybody else. And that's not what they mean. And that's not what it is. Sometimes I'm like, I wish it didn't come out that way.
Yeah.
We don't care about what other people think of our legacy. That's fine. But your legacy on the court looks different when you advance further in this tournament. But it doesn't take away from everything they did this year. It doesn't take away from what they did in their careers as a team and individuals. And certainly, what they're saying is, like, we're better people for being in this program.
100%.
You can't take that away from us. And that's where I think it just gets confusing with the kind of the cocoon and the bubble. It sometimes, I think people that were talking to me this weekend, it came off differently than what they mean it. Because these dudes want to win, man. Like, and I think no one would be more frustrated than the players than us. But yeah, at the end of the day, David, there's, I think, to me, a fair expectation for this team was to get to the second weekend. And honestly, I think those guys know they could have done more than that. They could have been playing this Sunday, taking the court, going, if we win today, we will go to the Final Four. And it might have been against an Ole Miss team. They might have gone to Atlanta and played two teams they've beaten in Auburn and Ole Miss. That is very possible. I'm not sure. It's not even likely. And, man, that's a tremendous opportunity that was there in front of them, and they were unable to do it. Just like Caruso and those guys.
Yeah.
Michigan. No, that wasn't Michigan. That was OU. That team, Billy Kennedy's second Sweet 16 team that played Michigan, if you'd have beaten them, you were playing like an 11 seed Florida State and I forget if it was a 10 or a 12 seed Loyola Chicago to play in a Final Four in San Antonio.
Yeah.
Like, these are missed opportunities, and it is. Like, you can't tell me that Alex Caruso wouldn't have said, hey, his legacy is incredible here. His number should be in the rafters too, alongside Wade and AC, 100%. He had an amazing career. They won the SEC regular season title. They went to a Sweet 16 as far as any A&M team's gone. Alex Caruso would sit here and say, yeah, if I'd have gone to an Elite Eight or a Final Four, my legacy would be totally different.
Yeah.
AC Law would tell you. AC Law is the greatest player ever to play here. If AC and Joe and those guys went to the Final Four, and I think had they beat Memphis, they beat Ohio State. They were a bad matchup for Ohio State, and I think they beat Georgetown that year. I think they would have lost the national title game to Florida. How much, even though we revere those guys, but what the players are saying is true too. That doesn't make us think any differently about AC Law. And look what guys like him and Bryson and so many of those guys on that team, Joe Jones and coaching, look what they've all done outside of it. It doesn't change anything, but it certainly changes like the legacy that goes with you in terms of your accomplishments on the floor.
And I'll just tie a bow with it here. I think this group should have gone to the second weekend. If we're talking about what they should have done, it doesn't always go as planned. So
my expectation was they were going to win that game, and the game went. It went like I thought it would.
Well, let's talk about that on the other side because we're past two breaks. Keeping water local. If you care about this community and this environment and children's futures here in the Brazos and Robertson County, you need to think about keeping water local. The website is keepwaterlocal.org. Click Get Involved today and ensure that our water stays where it belongs, because you only think about water when you need it. And it's truly the lifeblood of everything we love about this area. And we're facing some droughts, rising temperatures, and something concerning is happening. Out-of-state interests and neighboring communities are working on taking our most precious resource away, which is water. That's why I'm asking you to consider supporting Keep Water Local, a coalition of your neighbors, local business leaders, community voices united with one purpose: protecting our water for our future. The truth is, giving away our water means giving away our future. So make sure that you are the difference. Go to keepwaterlocal.org. That is keepwaterlocal.org, and click Get Involved today. TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's read a comment from the YouTube page. Let's see. Kay Mickey's got good stuff. BTTS, good stuff. Oh, Dalton Hughes. Huh. Buzz just ain't it. Move on to the next one. Can't keep getting so attached to coaches in Aggieland.
I don't think that's why he's here, and I don't think it's an attachment by any stretch. I think you're trying to run an athletic department. You're a coach that is weighing your options, and when you're at 4 point whatever million with X number of years on the contract, like
13 million left, right?
13 million. I don't think either side is moving, and there's an emotional fan component of it, and there is the reality of it, and there's also the reality of what Buzz has done. Like, it's not like this is North Carolina. I want better. If this program takes a big step back next year, and it sets up that way, but it's not.
Doesn't have to be.
It's not acceptable in the portal era. Like, this is the job that you're paying that $4-something million for, and I'm sure Buzz is out recruiting the portal today. Like, it's a daunting task. It's a task that you're paid to go do. So to look up and see A&M 14th, 15th, or 16th in this conference next year, the expectation is now to get to the tournament. You've said it. I think that's a fair expectation. So if it falls short of that, then each year you reevaluate the position. But it's real easy, and it's Dalton, so he and I will probably talk about it later today, but it's real easy to sit there and say, don't demand more. Or, like, Trev Alberts didn't hire Buzz. He didn't hire Joni Taylor. Like, she's struggling on a completely different level right now. But it's easy to say, no, you have to demand excellence and make moves. You're not following every other school, every program, and what their situation is in terms of football to baseball to basketball and the hierarchy, and what are you trying to do in year 2 under a new football coach in the most competitive of circumstances and environments? There's so much at play that, dude, it is hard to sit there and go, it's real easy to say, second round of the tournament's not good enough, fire, new guy, 6 years. It's not as simple as that. There's a lot more that goes into it. And look, nothing about Buzz's resume, nothing, in my opinion, says go out and change coaches. And the contract and the situation of it, it just, quite frankly, it wouldn't let, in my opinion, either side move anyway, including, like, if Buzz is looking around, Indiana, it sounds like that job was filled, like, by Thanksgiving almost is what it's coming out and sounding like. So Texas didn't go and pull him away. I think last year he probably could have gotten Oklahoma State. He probably could have gotten Arkansas had the Cal thing not happened. I don't think he would have taken those. I know he wouldn't have taken Oak State because he could have had it. But right now this year, his resume versus salary versus the job openings, I think, you look around and go, would he have had to go somewhere for less? And why would he do that? So we are where we are, and the goal is to get back to the tournament and break through, period. I don't care that you lose Wade, Henry, Andy, Manny, all those guys. Like, doesn't matter. Like, the goal is to get back there and win again. Who was it? It's Michigan. Michigan was 8-24 last year.
Fired Juwan Howard.
8-24, and Dusty May comes in, and look where they're at. I could give you, look at Calipari. Maybe that's next year's A&M team, where it's a bunch of pieces thrown together.
And it works.
Meticulously, because Buzz is doing it. And they started 0-5 in conference. It didn't work. And then it did. Ironically enough, it started to work once he went and won at Kentucky, which is the wild thing about it. But then it did. And here they are. Right back where the nut, he's the must bus. There's the nuss bus. Right there where the must bus had them. Sweet 16. They're back. There's a million examples of this in the sport almost every season. So, yeah, I think it's a perfectly fair and reasonable expectation. And I'm going to be like, year 7, you need to get the Aggies into the second weekend. Even if you're not a 4 seed, you might be an 8-9. You might be a 10 like Arkansas is. Get there. That's the goal. That is what it is. So a lot of people are going to be wasting their breath on a lot of this. When you go to a break now, I want to come back and talk about, though, the general frustration in the fan base and why I do think it's very warranted.
Yep. Right now we're talking about the Association of Former Students. If your organization or business is looking for an opportunity to engage with Aggies, then you need to check out the Association of Former Students to bring Aggies of all ages together during marquee events held throughout the year. We're talking about these awesome ones like Aggie Ring Day, All Aggie Hullabaloo, The Gathering. They welcome tens of thousands of guests, and there are many sponsorship and vendor opportunities to get your brand in front of those attendees, and they offer a wide variety of both digital and in-person options to promote your brand. These options include title sponsorship, naming, on-site presence, activation, recognition, social media posts, and much, much more. There's also advertising opportunities in both the Texas Aggie Magazine and the Aggie News newsletter, which are seen by over 230,000 people. So if your business is ready to engage with Aggies, choose a partner with the organization that's been supporting the Aggie Network for over 140 years. For more information on options available through the association, please email sponsorships@aggienetwork.com. We're back here on TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio, Billy Liucci, David Nuño in studio. All right, so the frustrations where we left it at. You understand. Why are we smiling?
I'm just laughing. I'm over here dancing.
Oh.
Felt like that was like the Trump dance.
I was going to say, it looked like a little Trumpy.
I felt like it. Trumpy.
But you left it at, like, you understand the frustration. You're going to go a little bit deeper because it has been,
it's
literally since the College World Series, a lot of not reaching final destinations.
Better way to put it.
Okay.
Your way's better. Like, I do want, I want, it's twofold to me. Number one, I don't want to hear this. I wish we were off air because I'd emphasize there's gratuitous cussing and then there's cussing. I know a lot of parents and their kids listen to the show because they come up to me and I'm beyond grateful because I feel like that's awesome that they can listen and enjoy the show. So don't cuss, kids, but earmuffs. I do think sometimes it's good to do so to get your point across. I'm not into the barstool cool cussing, gratuitous, just to sound cool. Like, hey, I can do this because it's a podcast, so I'm gonna
do it.
Drop a bunch of F-bombs and just throw them in there. This effing coffee, and man, this paper says it. Like, no.
I love this effing show.
But I would cuss right here to emphasize something. Is this how strongly I feel about it? Don't say, like, A&M sports sucks. And, say we want championships and we are sick of not winning them. We give so much of our time, our money, our passion, our emotions, our weekends, our travel, our time, like that. Like, we want a return on this investment more so than we're getting in the form of wins, in the form of positive, like, get it back and like get back what you give. And I completely agree. It's tiring. I want, like, I've been sent through my tweet from years ago always gets brought up every time an A&M team loses. And it was a dead ass accurate tweet that, saying next come the championships, and they never came. They should have come. You hired at the time, Jimbo Fisher was coming off a top 5 finish in year 3. A New Year's 6 bowl win, a top 5. He was a national championship head coach. He was putting together, in the early stages of putting together, the number 1 class ever. Like, that should have worked. And it was nothing wild to say at the time to say Jimbo Fisher was going to bring a championship to A&M. The tweet came right after A&M hired Jim Schlossnagle. I hear everybody say, well, what's wrong with A&M? It's a cultural, it's this, that, and that. My ass, dude. Like, yes, can this place be better in the infrastructure and everything being streamlined and everybody on the same page and not different entities? I've always had a problem with that here. I always think that there's too many self-serving interests around the whole thing. And I think it's getting a lot better, not just a little better, a lot better. And that's why people, like, if Trev Alberts thinks differently than everyone else around here, that's not a bad thing. You got to work through and figure out what's best for A&M at that time. And it might be half of his ideas. It might be 3/4. It might be taking something that he thought or this other entity thinks and finding a mesh point. But it doesn't hurt to have differing ideas and try to figure out the best path. But you can't have people pulling in different directions. And I think that in the past has been an issue here. And I think now more than ever, I feel better about it. But that, to me, holds it back. But at the end of the day, you can say that Jim Schlossnagle left. He left because his best friend's the AD at Texas. I don't give a damn about whatever he says, whatever. Like, I know that he never gave Trev a chance. That was a perfect opportunity. Had they hired his choice at AD, maybe it would have been different. Had the stadium been done, maybe it would have been different. But he left to go because it was either re-sign with A&M and end your career here, or go to Texas and work with one of your best friends and end your career there. Because once they hired someone, there was never going to be another mesh point there. But what I'm getting at, you about to go 10 o'clock?
Well, no, we have one break before 10 o'clock. So
Okay, I'll end it with this about baseball, and then I want to keep going. You hired a 5-time Omaha head coach that advanced in that tournament. It's not shocking that the result you got was 2 trips to Omaha and wins in 3 years. And it's not any type of dysfunction or lack of continuity why he left. You can say that all you want. He left. If Chris Del Conte was not at Texas, Jim Schlossnagle would be the coach here. Period. End of story. So you hired a championship level coach, and he was going to win you a championship. He got you that close. It should have been that way with Jimbo. We could write a book on why it wasn't. And then the third part of that was Buzz, who has generally done what Buzz does. And I get, though, if you say, we want to win championships, I think in basketball, damn, that's hard, but you want to see them get closer to that.
Yep. We'll hit a break, final segment, and we'll go along on YouTube, TexAgs Live. All right, finishing up here on The Zone, TexAgs Live, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. We will go longer on TexAgs.com and on the YouTube channel. Billy, we were finishing up that last segment about the state of affairs of Aggie athletics, and you understand people's disappointment, anger, all that.
Yeah.
But really, it's what we do from here. And I don't want to mean it to sound so simple, right? But this is now a year into Trev Albert's run, and now we're going to learn a lot more about him because the first part was putting his infrastructure, his finances. Now we've got to figure out what these programs look like moving forward, and basketball's at a critical junction now that 8 guys are leaving. You were just talking to Luke about what the roster could look like next year.
No, I wasn't talking about what it could look like because there's no way to.
Well,
there's no way on earth to tell. That's what's so wild. But look, teams have to deal with that. Some teams do that purposefully because they want to flush it out. A&M, it's happening because you're losing a lot of guys. And let me just say, again, that group that's leaving, they are, as far as I'm concerned, they're Aggie. They're legendary. I don't think they have a single team championship, right? No. But they are a legendary group. They are, I told somebody this the other day, they were a really good basketball team, really good, not great, and they are an elite team, an elite group of Aggies, and they're winners, but they're not champions, and that. So you want to get there in hoops, you want to get there in everything, right? But the one thing I do want to say where I push back on the mob and the masses and the 2025, hey, let's do everything we can to make David look stupid, make Billy look stupid, make anyone that disagrees with me look stupid, to shame Wade Taylor on a tweet for talking about how the program's in a good shape and he knows they're going to be good. And some Aggies feel the need to go on there and say, you don't know what the hell you're talking. Why can't you just let one of your best players ever who loves this place go argue with one of us, go argue with your friends on Twitter, go argue with strangers. Why do you feel the need to go into a player's reply that's just saying something completely positive about the program that you love, that he brought a lot of enjoyment for you to watch? Just sit down. Is it 11 o'clock yet?
Yeah.
Wait,
no. But we're off radio. We are off radio.
Okay, sit that effing one out. How freaking hard is it to go, this is one of our players, he just lost, probably feels like crap, and he's trying to be positive and kind of give Aggie fans hey, it's going to be good, we're in good shape. And you have to come in that shit. I hate it. Again, I don't disagree with the person going, man, it's going to be really tough, dude. I'm glad you're optimistic. It's going to be real. But they don't say it like that, first of all. That's the number one. Number two, talk about it with everyone else. You don't have to go, and you could even sit there and talk about it, but you don't have to go into Wade's comments. It just seems so, he's not arguing with anyone. He's not, I hate where we're at with that. I hate where we're at. I said it the other day about baseball. Man, they are really bad right now. They're in last place. It's crazy that they're in last place with Florida and Kentucky's only a game up, and they were all in Omaha last year. It's the weirdest damn thing with Ole Miss after they won it. Mississippi State has not been back to the postseason since I guess they went back last year. Maybe it was 2 years they weren't back. It's the weirdest damn thing. It doesn't make it excusable. It's just weird. But like baseball, like I was saying the other day, these dudes brought you the best fan experience you've ever had 6 months ago. And it's hell yeah, they deserve the scrutiny and being critical. And especially when you get this NIL money now, my sympathy level for rational, fair, non-aggressive criticism. And by non-aggressive, I mean the threats, the name calling, the tough guy routine. If you're just dude, this team cannot hit. They're struggling bad in the field, and forget all of it. You're winless in the SEC. It's a real problem. That's fair, and I think, like I said, in today's world, these athletes, I feel less bad for them taking criticism on social, because when they win, we get all the videos and the hype videos, and we get the eating the W's, and we get the locker room celebrations and the dancing, and we get the social media team taunting the other team. So when you lose, it's not fun. And when you lose, you deserve, not deserve, but it's within the realm of fairness, is criticism, scrutiny, second guessing, questioning, and that goes for coaches too. I don't want this to get to a world of softness where one side gets everything and the other side can't say anything negative about it. But I don't agree with this whole, we're A&M, we suck, why can't we have anything? Because you played for a national championship. You took the field against Tennessee to win a nat. You can throw it. I'll try to catch it. I wanted you to throw it because it's either going to be a good catch or it's going to be funny if I dropped it, right? You know what I'm talking about. But you played for a national title in June in one of the big three. You took the field to play. Now you can say, well, our coach isn't even here anymore because we lost him to our rival. That's part of where all this comes from.
Yeah.
So does you beat 2 top 10 teams in football, and I know you go, well, they're not. Well, Missouri won 10 games, and LSU, I think, were they 9-4? But you had 2 top 10 victories in football in your head coach's first year, and you played Texas with a berth in Atlanta on the line. And I get it. You lost that. You lost to Auburn. You lost 4 years. I get it. We criticized it.
Yeah.
That was all bad. That was year one under your football coach. But they weren't top 10. My ass, they weren't. Because every time you list a damn, top 10 wins for Saban, Kirby, Jimbo, RC, Mac Brown, Sark, Stoops, Venom, whoever, top 10 wins are historically, did you beat a team ranked in the top 10? So don't go move the friggin' target to fit your argument. It is what it is. They won 2 top 10 games at home in the coach's first year, and they played for the first time ever in 13 years for a berth in the SEC title game in the final game. It wasn't a disaster. It should have been better, mainly because you should have beaten Auburn. You should have scored an offensive point against Texas. I've been extremely critical of both of those 2 things, and rightfully so. But 8 games into the season, you were 7-1 in year one under your coach in the SEC that went 8-4. And you go on and compare. And I'm not saying you have to line up and say, Elko's the answer. There's no looking back. There's no way that you could say that and know that right now. And I understand if you don't want to. But basketball did not suck. Basketball they were a good team this year. They beat number 1. They won, 5 games against teams still playing? Both can be true. It was a good year. They earned a 4 seed. They've only been a 3 seed ever in their history, nothing higher than that. But at the same time, they left you wanting more, and they left you feeling like they didn't get as far as they should have gotten. The season ended in disappointing fashion. Completely agree.
Yep.
Both can be true. I just don't want us to this point where everything sucks. When I'm not even starting on the other sports right now and the direction some of those are going. The non-revenue sports.
Volleyball.
There's a bunch, softball. Track. There's tennis. A bunch of track just won an SEC indoor. Women's tennis just won a national title. There's plenty going on. But yeah, the big 3 is the primary focus for me, for you, for everybody else. And I think that's the case virtually everywhere. You've got outliers like Oklahoma softball, Nebraska women's volleyball. You got all those things. But the big 3 is what we care. And one of the seasons just ended yesterday, and it ended in disappointing fashion Baseball's disappointing right now. Football is like, I think there's stuff to be excited about after last year. That's just me. I absolutely do. But we're in this 8-4 rut until we're not. I agree with that. Like I've said the other day, Mike Elko has a tough road ahead to get off that schedule to get out of that rut, but that's the task at hand. That's what you need to do. A&M needs to get out of this 8-4 cycle, and they certainly don't need to step back to where Jimbo was 2 years ago, 7-5, and where Sumlin was towards the end. Like, they need to get out of that as quickly as possible. And I've talked to Elko. He totally understands that, and they get it, and that's, so yeah, my point is, it is not hopeless. I get the frustration right now because of what we're seeing with baseball, the situation that's gone on there since, June 20, whatever. Basketball can't, this was the year that we thought, and I think fairly thought, and I think, forget what they said in front of the microphone. I think they all thought and expected to get over that first weekend hump. I know they did, and they didn't. So, I understand, like right now, we're sitting here going, of the big three, and this is what I hear every day. What do we have to be excited about and great at? And I'm like, it sucks to say, like, I don't know. You got to wait and see with football.
Yep.
And you got to say basketball's good, but they haven't got over the hump to great. And then baseball right now, man, that one is, it's beyond frustrating.
Yeah.
What's happened really since June. And I feel for Earley and his staff and those players, but I also see 0-6, and it's like, come on, like you have to start winning games in this you have to, no matter how tough it is right now.
Billy, part of the frustration, I think, is also the timing of it all happening within a few months of each other.
It's one gut shot after the other, but it's also 20 plus years.
Which is why I thought, had they gotten out of this weekend, again, I'm not saying that we're happy with 9-win seasons only, and I'm not saying we're only happy with the Sweet 16.
But you know what,
David? The next logical step.
But you know what? People would have been pissed.
Yeah.
My ass, they would have been happy. And I'm not saying, like, I have friends on a group chat, Seth and I, and they're like, when we beat Yale, Seth tweeted something, and they're like, who cares? What's the end game? They're not going to win a national title. And it's like, if Chris Beard beats Michigan State and Ole Miss goes Sweet Six or Elite Eight, they're not going to win a damn thing. They don't win shit. Are you going to tell me that wasn't special, and that wasn't a hell of a ride? The year A&M under Slosh in year one in baseball, they I guess they won the SEC West. I don't know what you even get for that. There's no damn divisions, but they went to Omaha and finished in the Final Four. They didn't win anything, but they eliminated Texas and knocked them out, and they won multiple games there for the first time ever. That was amazing. That was as fun as I'd had covering an A&M sport and following it and being a fan up until last summer. So this woe is me crap I don't get with. This we commit way too much to not have, a ton of hope, excitement, and reward. I agree with that. Totally agree. And A&M, it's up to the people in charge to figure that out. And it's got to start resulting in that. But I also think someone asked the other day about Tennessee.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. That was
and everybody wants to ask about Texas. And I was so refreshed to hear someone ask about Tennessee, because there are other programs out there. Okay, I want to beat Texas's ass in everything. And it bothers me to my core that we lost 2 or 3 to them in basketball and that we lost at home to them in football. I don't care that it was year 4 under Sark and they had a better team and it's year 1 under Elko. I'm not saying they had no business losing to a team that was a yard away from playing for a national title and probably winning it. I'm saying it still doesn't matter. It bothers me to every fiber of my being that they came in here and won a game at Kyle Field and won the last time we played there too. With that said, and trust me, y'all know this, nobody catches it more when we lose to them than me. Like, period. Like, and I'll play the game back and forth, and when we win, I'm going to be freaking unbearable. You just watch. But then everybody's going to go, well, when the hell is that going to be? And believe me, I think that too. Trust me, I sit there and go, okay, well, football's going into year 2, and we got, this schedule, and it's got to get here, and then basketball, we're losing the whole team, and baseball. I'm mentally there. I get it. Like, I'm sitting here looking at it going, but Tennessee, David, was a great example. They got their AD in Danny White, and he said, I like Josh Heupel at UCF, where he was. Mm-hmm. He wasn't from Bama or Georgia or, Ohio State or USC. I like Josh Heupel at UCF. And I don't think Heupel's a national title level coach yet by any stretch. He's kind of on the fringe of the top 10. But he has brought excitement.
Yep.
And he has revitalized that fan base in football. He's kicked the NIL machine into high gear there. They're going they're on a tremendous trajectory, and they're back to really relevant in the SEC. They've got way more history than A&M in football. Tennessee basketball doesn't matter when it doesn't matter. It mattered with Bruce Pearl. They went through some dark, and then all of a sudden, Texas fires a Hall of Fame coach. They go, okay, we'll take the Hall of Fame basketball coach. So now they got the football coach, they got the basketball coach, and they went and hired Tony Vitello, who had no head coaching experience. And I'm not making any kind of Vitello early comparison here. What I'm saying is they hit with the right baseball coach, and they've got the best baseball coach in the country. They've got a football coach that I said has completely been a shot in the arm to Tennessee football, made them very relevant again, made them a contender, and then they've got a Hall of Fame basketball coach that's doing Hall of Fame things. It's the coaches. It's getting the right guys. Now, whatever that process around it is, keeping the coaches happy and keeping them, it is conducting quality searches and knowing your place, like this place, not your place in the pack, knowing this place and what coach fits at that time period. And that's it. That is it. Like, I saw somebody the other day say Sark was the hottest commodity in coaching when Texas hired him. My ass, he was. He was a massive question mark. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that was even who Del Conte wanted. I've heard way too many people close to the situation say he wanted Sonny Dykes. But whoever made that decision, whether it was him or whether it was the powers that be, they hit the perfect coach for them for the perfect time. Steve Sarkisian in the NIL era, the offense.
With a little patience, too. They give him some patience.
5-7. 7-5.
Yep.
But perfect coach for the NIL era. All gas, no brakes. Ferraris, Lamborghinis in Austin. Offensive scheme that basically guaranteed you getting Quinn Ewers. So from day one, you had your quarterback. All the history it was a perfect hire for them at that time. I didn't think so. Most of them didn't think so. I think keeping Rodney Terry was a mistake that they had to make. He coached them through half a season, all the way into the tournament. Chris Beard was the national championship coach for them. Chris Beard had a terrible incident off the court, or they'd had their national championship head coach. Now they hire Sean Miller. I think that's a good hire. I don't think it's what Chris Beard could have done. I think it's a good hire. So it's about the coach and hiring. Look at them in baseball right now. versus under David Pierce.
Mm-hmm.
David Pierce ain't a fifth of the coach that Slosh is. It's about getting the guy. Tony Vitello had never coached a game. They got the guy. So if you're A&M and if you're Trev Alberts and anybody that matters around here, you have to look at the end of every season and evaluate what you can do in terms of your coaches and what's the smart thing to do with your coaches. So that's going to be the task. That's the task right now with Buzz and Trev. I've kind of already explained that. There's going to come a point and I think it has to be at the end, not during, at the end of baseball season where Trev's going to have to sit down with Mike Earley and they got to evaluate what just happened. Not 0-6, but what happened over 30 games.
Right.
And so it's the way it is. And in 1 year under Mike Elko, again, I go back and I say, it's not what people think. It wasn't the tragedy that people have made it out to be. It's just like you said, David, everything's piling up. I don't think it's a coincidence that that's coinciding with Texas coming into the league and playing for the SEC title and beating you here, winning those basketball games. I don't think the Sweet 16 would have solved anything, but I think if you would have won, it would have just kind of, everybody would have at least a week to get excited. But say you go to Sweet 16 and lost to Auburn by 12. I think people would still have the same complaints. But I think it would have been able to say, dude, who cares? I mean, I cared that day. I don't want to lose to Texas ever. But we went to the Sweet 16 for like the fourth time in school history. So we're in a I think collectively the fans are in a tough space mentally because we desperately want to win, and these people most of the subscribers, some people on social media that are the most critical don't do a damn thing for anything to do with, and I don't mean money, I even mean just tickets, I mean anything, do nothing but complain to athletes and people on Twitter, anybody that's not as negative and defeatist as they are, they will crucify you. They don't care what you do, what I do, what any coach, any donor, anybody does. Their goal is to diminish what you say or do at any cost. And those people are, pardon my French, kids, they're effing losers. Most people are not like that. Most people just care and they want to win and they do what they can. And in return for that, I do think it's very fair to say we want to win. We want to win big.
I do want to bring this up, Billy, because it was so nice being in Denver and talking to fans there. Because in real life, how nice people are about, not even to us about TexAgs. I'm talking about A&M sports. There's one group of guys that I talked to, they're like, I just like these guys. I just want to be here and support. I hope we make it to the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
I just like them. I feel like real encounters promote more of that.
Yeah.
And
well, you're getting less and less of that, unfortunately. And you can't control it, and I can't control it. And this rant, what's happening is everybody that agrees with me is going, hell yeah. I'm not converting anyone, and if I do, if it's this is how many people I'm converting right here. That much. All those people are still going to exist. Mm-hmm. You can't win. So if you're Buzz, you can take your shot at Twitter about eating queso with H on the couch and no one can tweet about it. To me, that's saying that the Twitter, no matter what, you never look at it, but that stuff does affect, it pisses you off. And guess what? That type of behavior pisses me off too. You can't control it. But at the end of the day, A&M sports, the Aggies Texas A&M athletics is good. We want great.
Yep.
And they're obviously women's basketball, baseball are not good right now. We're obviously a lot more emotional about baseball not being good. And I think I think that whole thing is very upsetting to fans and people that really care on a whole different level because of the way it went down, how you were finally at that pinnacle, and how hard everybody is rooting for Mike Earley. So it's like everybody's just in a tough mental spot there. But what I will say is this, like, I don't know how else to say this, but you can be really critical. And don't give me this crap. Don't fall into this burnt orange bullshit that you can't be critical on TexAgs, or that anyone's sitting here saying, hey, don't criticize or question or critique. Go read the site at any given point in time. Like I said many times, we probably let it get too negative. To be perfectly honest with you, it's way too negative. The threads and the comments, and you can't keep up with enough of the people that cross the line. But just how hard is it, honestly, seriously, to not cross the line? I had a guy message me the other day, and I get him all the time. And this guy, I'm reinstating him, no questions asked. He sent me a really nice message. I'm not going to go into detail, but just, hey, man, I look back, and I was a complete jerk. Here's why. I mean, I didn't need any explanation. I was a complete jerk with what I said and the way I said it. Here's why, what was going on with me, and here's also my frustration. I don't expect you to ever let me back on. I just want to say it. I'm like, dude, you were on the minute you said, hey, I look back at what I said, and I was out of line. Like, that's all. And I don't mean like you have to come like groveling back in any way, and that's not what this person was doing. But just, I think people, there's the ability to recognize that before you hit send. Just there's the ability to do that and say, man, I really disagree with the Tom Hart thing. Say it in a way, there's a million ways to say that, and 9 out of 10 of them are fine. Why just always be like, I don't want to pick the 10th. I disagree, like somebody said, I disagree with Wade Taylor saying that. I think we're going to suck at basketball next year. That's fine. And you could sit there and state your case. Like, you lost this, and this. You only returned this and that. Like, you could do that. But just maybe, man, you know what? I don't need to go reply in Wade's replies. This guy's trying to be positive. He just had his freaking career end. And I did a lot of cheering for that guy. And that guy gave me a lot of happy moments on the court. Or that guy won me a lot of money gambling, whatever it may be.
Yep.
That guy made me proud to wear, my A&M shirt to work the next day after they beat Auburn. Or, man, that when they beat Nebraska and they almost beat U of H, man, I was like hanging on the edge of my seat. And that, whatever it may be, can that not be enough just to go, I'm going to do the 9 out of 10 critique. I'm not going to do that 1 out of 10. And I just think if people thought that way, like most of us all agree. Like, we're paying, committing, doing, traveling, expending the emotion. Like you want championships in return.
Yep.
Or really, David, I think the bigger thing to sit here and say, I demand championships at A&M, I demand a national title in football, basketball, baseball, one of them. Those things are really hard to win.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's envious of Texas so much. How many national championships in football have they won as a blue blood? And they are blue blood. People, some of us don't want to say that. They are. How many as a blue blood football program have they won in most people's lifetimes? One. The answer is one.
Yeah.
They won it in like 70, and they won it in 2005. That's it. So all these people that run their mouths about, they've had Vince Young not made that 4th down run, was it Sark was on that staff, had Pete Carroll and them not decided to run Lendale White on a dive up the middle on 4th down or instead of Reggie Bush. Texas has 0 national championships in over 50 years. 1970 to 1920 or 2025. They'd have none. That's how close it was. They are hard. I know LSU's got, you can name it. It's not about winning, though, because Texas had hope to win natties in the early 80s. They had it throughout the entire Mac Brown era, and they've got it again these last couple years and moving forward. It's about the hope of being able to do it. So that's where baseball is, I think, and we're doing psychiatry here. And I actually am kind of having fun talking about this. I'm sorry. But like A&M baseball gave us more hope than we've had maybe ever. I would say like Johnny Manziel and those initial teams, that first couple of years, these were outlier examples of when we like really, really had hope that like, damn, there's no limit to what they can win a champ. And then for it to be gone that quickly and then seeing what they're doing now in you look at the baseball rankings today, I get that frustration, and I get that it's dominating our boards, and I think it should. I think tough questions should be being asked. And I think Early and those players should be, feeling a lot of pressure right now. It's sports, man. I think if he was sitting here, he'd be like, yeah, hell yeah, I feel pressure. Like, you have to be. Like, Buzz should be feeling pressure right now to say, I have to go rebuild this roster. I can't sit here and mope. I can't, that's it, man. This is where you're at. Like, go get players. That's the job now. And if you think you need more NIL, then go raise it, no matter how hard it is. Get the hell, same thing with Elko. Just like I said, man, like he's got to be going. And the goal isn't 9. I need to get to 9. The goal is to win more. Like, how do I do that? Right. I'm coaching this team. I got to go to the portal. I got to raise more NIL money. I've got to fight these other battles to help, like, departmentally get us in. Like, he's got to do a lot, but it's what these dudes are paid for. So, like, for people to be sitting there criticizing and talking about it, great. But I would just love to see everyone drop the whole we just suck across the board thing. We're a laughing stock, because that's not true. It's just it's flat out not true unless we want to make it be true.
Somebody that you, I guess, went to school with just believes that we're just spinning everything, and I don't think we're spinning. I think we're just talking.
I went to school with
Colin. Said he went to school with you.
Colin
Parker. He changed his name just to Colin, but it was Colin Parker initially.
I don't.
But
I don't know.
I mean,
Colin.
What I was going to say is, providing context is not spin.
Yeah.
None of us are happy with the results.
Go listen to the words said, and where is that spin? Like, take out some of the things I've actually said and listen to them. And that's what pisses me off. That right there is just because I'm not yelling and screaming at your desired level, Colin.
Your classmate.
My classmate. You left a strong freaking impression, Colin. Because I don't yell and scream at your level, you think, and by the way, I'm probably older than you. I probably didn't go to school.
He was 92 to 96.
Okay, so he was my age.
So I don't know if that means high school or college.
We were all complaining back then about RC Slocum when they won 90% of their games. And by the way, I think some of that was fair, because the SWC was so bad. Like, you only played a couple a year, and it was like everybody was doing that. So, and I hate to say it, but they were awful in basketball back then, and they were. I think my freshman year they went to the World Series in baseball, and then they didn't go again until like 98. So it was like a 6-7 year gap in there. But no, like, jokes aside, Colin, I'm giving you a hard time here because you listen to all that and all you can think is spin, when probably 90% of what I said you agree with. It's like, I'm just not yelling and saying this coach should be fired and this guy sucks and that guy sucks and burn it all down and we're an embarrassment. So that pisses you off because that's what you wanted to hear me say today. I don't believe a lot of those things. I do think I understand, like, look, like, there's a reality with your basketball situation. There's a reality with athletics as a whole in 2025. There is an expectation of Mike Elko going into next year, but I'm not going to tell you that his first year was shitty. I'm not, because it's not true. That's what you want to hear. You want to hear that there's no hope for Elko and he can't get it done. That's not true. I'm also not sitting here guaranteeing it. I felt like really confident, damn near I would have guaranteed it 3 years into Jimbo's tenure. I basically did on Twitter, and people still won't let it go. Like, I got railed yesterday for saying something I said a couple years ago, that Texas fans are pissed that the Aggies have the coach that they wanted and couldn't get. That was factual.
At the time,
they tried to hire Jim Schlossnagle from TCU. They couldn't get him. A&M got him. And A&M was winning a lot more than they were and eliminating them, and it pissed people off. It was factual. Now it's funny to look at. I get it. I would make fun of me too, if I had the time to do that. But I just like, you want me to say that. You want me to say that this basketball season sucked and it's unacceptable to do what they did and that's not good enough. I disagree with that, but I do want more. And I do think it's fair to expect more from this coach under this contract. I also think it's fair for Buzz Williams to say, dude, I've had 3 ADs since I've been here, and I want to sit down with this current guy, and I want to tell him what more I need, and I want him to help me. And I want Trev to say, I can help you with this, this, and this. I'm sorry, I can't help you with that. That's real AD head coach stuff. I want that conversation to be had right now. It's not, I'm sorry, guys, it's not going to be a conversation. You want what you want. I want to tell you the reality. It is not, no one's firing Buzz Williams, nor should they. And I want them to evaluate baseball at the end of this season, and I damn sure hope they start winning more games, because I'm rooting for this thing to work like hell.
Thank you, Colin, and thank you, Billy.
Did you do that on purpose?
I might have pulled an OB. Anyway, unless you curse and yell at people, it doesn't count, apparently. So thank you for listening.
I don't know.
We
Whatever.
love opinions.
I think
Opinions are fine as long as you're nice.
You don't even have to be nice. You don't have to be an ass. And so,
I mean, basically what I'm saying.
Like, dude, let me paraphrase this in one sentence. I'm unhappy. I am frustrated.
I know. We talked after the game on the phone.
I am
like,
unhappy. I'm frustrated. I wanted more for this team. I think they should have won that game. I don't think they would have gone much further. I think Auburn is going to prove to be a team on a mission.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to go to Atlanta with hope, and I would have had hope because I know they beat the 2 teams they would have been playing there. They would have beaten 3 of the 4. They'd have beaten Creighton if it would have been them. I wanted that because I wanted hope. And I think that's all we all want.
Hope.
And if you break it down individually right now, I understand if you came to me and said, I'm not hopeful about this sport, that sport, or that sport. I could understand it, particularly where what's happening with baseball. And if you want to say, I think basketball's plateaued, if you want to say, I think they're losing too much and it's going to be a big step back. And if you say football, 4 out of 5 just has me too concerned, I wouldn't put up a big argument. I think it would be an interesting discussion if football and basketball. I think basketball would say, crazy crap happens, good and bad, and let's just see what kind of roster he puts together. You know, like, David, I know nobody thinks this. Maybe this guy in year 7 recruits kind of a different looking, feeling team. I know people don't think that could possibly happen, but maybe he says, you know what? I'm tired of these random ass dudes that don't score, hitting 4 threes and scoring 13 points in a row on me to knock me out. Or this guy at Penn State hitting like 8 threes. Or the U of H guy, what he hit, number 13 last year, 7 threes was like a career. I'm tired of my season ending like this. I want a guy to do that to somebody else. And maybe he goes and gets, better shooters. maybe the last 3 years of the tournament and the exposure they've had in their success in the SEC, and maybe there was a guy at the game when they beat number one or a guy watching that allows them, okay, you want these guys that can defend like Dexter Dennis but shoot like, CJ, like you want them to shoot like Wilcher and defend like Dennis. Well, those are called like NBA players. Maybe the last 3 years of winning at this level versus the 3 years prior will allow him to go get that next guy. So who knows? I think basketball, let him build a roster and then see how excited or uninspired you are. But everybody just wants hope.
Yeah.
And I get it that there's not a lot of that to go around right now. And if you took anything about this segment as me sitting there trying to force feed you hope, then you got the wrong message out of it. You really did.
Billy, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, guys.
That was a luchador, by the way.
Okay, there you go. We'll just repackage that. Thank you. Good day.